Good evening. Can you please take your seats? Before we begin, we're going to do a quick test of all of our V-Voter equipment. So if you could get your clicker out. Let me get mine. Mm-mm. No. So we're going to just do a quick roll call vote using your clickers. This is just really a test of your clickers because the sign-ins with the town clerk is really the formal way that we document who is in attendance. If you are in attendance, hit the green button. If you're not in attendance, hit the red. No one should be hitting the red. You should not be abstaining. Just hit the green button if you are here, please. Green light. And for those, as a reminder, the green light means that we're in voting. Cast your votes. When the light goes off, that's when I will call it. Still on typical vote. Are they?
30 seconds.
Okay. Yeah, 30 seconds. All right, we're going to be keeping the votes open tonight when we use V-Voter for about 30 seconds. All right. All right, the 2023 Fall Town Meeting will please come to order. Town meeting can easily be debated. That is the purest form of our democracy left. Town meeting provides an open forum for conversations, discussions, and decisions on our local issues, bringing people of different beliefs, history, ages, different demographics, precincts, professions, and your moderator dares say political parties all together in one space. Town meeting procedures and our town's character fuel this body to be a place of continual town growth and synergy. From those in this auditorium to those in the cafeteria to everyone watching on WinCam, this is Winchester's legislative government that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. Town meeting requiring 100 members for a quorum and having 141 in attendance, your moderator sees that there is sufficient number of members present to permit us to open the 2023 Fall Town Meeting, and it is so declared. To our town meeting members, welcome back. It is great to see all of you. Welcome also to our town staff, members of boards and committees, town consultants, and article presenters, as well as residents and other visitors who have all joined us tonight. Welcome one and all. I am Heather Von Mering, your town meeting moderator. Going forward, I ask to be referred to as Madam Moderator. We are joined by the town staff, the town clerk and clerk of the meeting, Mary Ellen Lannon. Also with us and in the auditorium and cafeteria is staff from the town clerk's office. Sitting with the select board, we have the town council, Mr. Jay Tellerman of Mead, Tellerman and Costa, our town manager as of February this year, Ms. Beth Rudolph, Winchester's IT director, Mr. Matthew Griffin is up front, Mr. Chris Conway and staff of the DPW and the facilities coordinator has helped to set up this meeting for us. Mr. Drew Chase is the individual who sits behind me that I don't know if many of you can see his face, but he is behind me. He is from Options Technology, and he runs our electronic voting system. And, of course, David Gathier and his talented crew from WinCam, which is way up back behind you. Since we have last met, there have been a substantial number of new hires replacing members of our community who have retired or ventured on to other roles to broaden their professional experience. I'm going to list them because there are a lot of them, and they are people that you may want to recognize. When I list them, if you could please stand just so they can see your familiar face and be comfortable approaching you if they have any questions. First, we'll start with Mr. Tom Kennedy. He is Winchester's newest building commissioner. Mr. Kennedy was a local building inspector previously for the town of Lexington. Thank you. Miss Ann Gill. She's Winchester's treasurer and collector. Previously, Ms. Gill was assistant treasurer tax collector for Winchester, and prior to that was a treasurer tax collector for the town of Georgetown. Thank you. Mrs. Diane Full, Winchester's assistant treasurer collector. Previously, she was a treasurer for the city of Peabody and former assistant treasurer for the city of Salem. She's coming with over 20 years in both positions. Thank you. We also have a new town engineer, Mr. Matt Schuman, previously the City of Watertown city engineer for 9 years, served Winchester as assistant town engineer for 3 years, and project manager for the City of Melrose for 5 years. Welcome back. You can leave Winchester, but you are always welcome back home. Mr. Taylor Herman, the new town planner. Mr. Herman comes with an experience in urban planning and community engagement. His education is a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Design from Green Mountain College and a Master's of Architecture from Northeastern University. Welcome to town meeting. Mr. Michael Wayne is our new network administrator. Mr. Wayne was responsible for the applications and systems of Winchester schools for 8 years prior to taking this position. Thank you. Cameron Bishop is our environmental health inspector. Prior, they were the health compliance officer for the town of Arlington. Thank you. And I did announce that this individual got a job with us in this position last time, but he was not official in that time, so I will re-announce him because it is official at this point. Mr. Steve Osborne is now officially the fire chief, serving our community previously with 28 years, including as a captain, lieutenant, and firefighter for Winchester's Fire Department. Thank you all to the newest members of the Town of Winchester staff. Welcome to town meeting. I hope town meeting during our break, you'll welcome them and introduce yourselves as well. We will continue our meeting tradition with the Pledge of Allegiance. For those members who would like the option to join me, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Finally, before I move on to the preliminary motions, it is with great sadness to inform the body that we have a few members of our community that have passed since we last met. To begin with, Mr. Peter Rowe was the interim finance director for the Winchester Public Schools at the time of his passing. He had a tremendous amount of experience and judgment towards the role. He stepped into the role as a favor to our community. In his lifetime, he served public schools for 43 years as a Boston public school teacher, business manager, deputy superintendent, finance director, and assistant superintendent, serving with success many various school districts in the Commonwealth. Mr. Edward Tonello, of Precinct 7, served town meeting for 2 terms. He grew up in Winchester and graduated from Winchester High School with a deep love of Winchester High School football and baseball. He had a strong career in engineering, and he used those skills to help his community, especially with the construction of the sets for the Winton Club. Mr. Michael O'Brien, of Precinct 8, served this town meeting for 16 years up until the day of his passing. Mr. O'Brien has always one of the first members of town meeting to arrive, take his preferred seat, and I was always ready to vote. Mr. O'Brien was a veteran who served with the United States Army. He also served his community not only as a town meeting member, but also worked for the United States Post Office and St. Mary's Parish. He also served as a chairman of the Disability Access Commission. Mrs. Marjorie Moore, of Precinct 3, served town meeting for decades. She had a profound impact on our community as she was the president of the Winchester League of Women Voters, chair of the Town Bicycle Committee, and a leader of the Winchester Trails Association. She also supported our children by assisting the Winchester school libraries. When not volunteering in our community, she could be heard volunteering her voice to the First Congregational Church of Winchester Choir for 50 years. And Mr. Sherman Whipple Saltmarsh Jr., also known as Whip, of Precinct 3, lived his entire 94 years of life in Winchester and installed the importance of community service and volunteerism in many of us. He was an avid hockey fan and player, including being inducted into the Winchester's Hall of Fame. He is a veteran of the United States Navy and served Winchester in many volunteer roles, including treasurer of the Veterans Honor Roll Committee, a member of the Select Board, including chair, and as a representative of the Massachusetts General Court on behalf of Winchester and Stoneham for 15 years. If you have the time, please visit the Saltmarsh Garden Terrace at the Winchester Town Common, dedicated in his honor. Your moderator kindly asks for a moment of silence in Mr. Rowe, Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Tonello, Mrs. Moore, Mr. Saltmarsh, and all of those in our community, local and throughout the world who we have lost, in their honor and in their memory. Thank you. In closing of my opening comments, it is important to keep the legislative body as a place where all voices are welcome and included. Town meeting is a place where we discuss and debate issues of our community, but we do not discuss individuals. If you have issues with individuals, the legislative branch of government is not the appropriate place to voice them. We have come together in civil assembly as a community in a tradition that is older than our Commonwealth itself. We come together to make decisions about our community. As we deliberate, let us advocate for our positions, but not at the expense of others. Let us remember that there is an immense gap between saying I am right and saying I believe I am right, and that our neighbors with whom we disagree are good people with hopes and dreams as true and as high as ours. And let us always remember that, in the end, caring for each other in this community is far greater and important than any difference we may ever have. Moving to page 1 of your Town of Winchester 2023 Fall Annual Town Meeting Article Motions and Comments booklet. It is moved and seconded to adopt the resolution relating to preliminary motions as printed in your motion book on page 1. This does not include the consent agenda. Please note under number 6, we are aiming to complete the work before us in 3 evenings. It all is depending on the town meeting and what your preferences are, but that is currently where your moderator is planning to take us. Are you ready for the question? Seeing no one rise, a majority vote of the members present is required. The question is to approve the preliminary motion shown on your screen, which we don't have yet, and is printed in the motion book on page 1. We do not have it, so I hope you have your books. It is on page 1 of your motion booklets. You all should have received it in the mail, and there's also copies out with the town clerk. I'm going to do a roll call vote, as this is really typical standard procedure. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion passed. Moving on to the consent agenda. It's also on page 1 of your Town of Winchester 2023 Spring Annual Town Meeting booklet. Please note that there is a typo in the motion, as 2022 was a great year, but we are no longer in it. So I'm going to read it with the correct year. It is moved and seconded that the 2023 Fall Town Meeting advance for consideration Articles 3, 9, 13, 15, 16, 21, 23, 25, 27, and 28, and take action on such articles without debate on any of such articles, provided that, upon the request of 5 voters at this town meeting made before the vote is taken on this motion, or otherwise at the moderator's discretion, an article shall be removed from the consent agenda and shall be acted upon in the ordinary course of business at this town meeting. As a reminder to town meeting members, a consent agenda is used when the opposition feeling is that it is useless to oppose or discuss the matter, and they simply acquiesce. Agenda items on consent tend to be simple actions or one with no opposition or very minimal opposition. However, if you have any questions on the consent agenda, debate is not permitted. Now is your time to do so. Any town meeting members with questions on the consent agenda? Can you please come to a microphone? There is no runner this evening. So you can come to this one if it's... What is your question on the consent agenda?
I just was wondering, I just wanted to clarify on Article 9, the amount that is in there in the moved and seconded is $170,263.97, but then in the background it mentions
Yep.
70,000. So just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, so yes, under Article 9, on page 13 of your motion booklet, there is a scrivener's error on your background information. The motion as it's written in your article under on page 13 is accurate. It is supposed to be $170,263.97. The background number is incorrect, but the motion is correct. Thank you for pointing that error out. Any other questions? I believe that town meeting is ready for the vote. Is someone on? Seeing no one rise, a vote of 4/5 vote is required. I'm going to do a voice vote first. If for some reason it does not sound like 4/5 of you agree with that, we'll move to the V-voter. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda? Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion passes. Thank you very much. We will now be moving on to Article 1. Under Article 1, it is moved and second that the reports of town officers, boards, committees, including the Finance Committee, be received and filed. Majority vote is required for this article. We will begin with hearing all the reports, and then I will ask for the vote in the end to file everything that we have on record. On behalf of the proponent of Article 1 is the Chair of the Select Board, Mr. Richard Mucci. So everyone knows on time, as the Select Board is a proponent and the head of the executive branch, they get 10 minutes. Everyone else gets 5.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Moderator, for the opportunity to address town meeting. I have the distinct pleasure of providing the report of the Select Board. So I would like to start by showing you what we've been up to lately. I'm glad everyone found a way to get here tonight. I wanted to start by thanking everyone and thanking the community for their patience during a very busy construction season. We have spent many hours at the Select Board table and with staff trying to troubleshoot construction projects, move forward with construction projects, and certainly it's been a busy season. We are near the finish line for this season, and I'm happy to report that some projects are wrapping up. The Eversource Cross Street project should end this fall, and we should start to see improvement with restoration work in the spring. The MBTA project will have a partial opening of the south side of the station in July of 2024 and a full opening in November of 2024. The Lake Street Bridge will be open, hopefully, by the end of November. And the transfer station, if you've been there recently, you'll notice that most of the work has been completed at this time. Certainly, these projects are at a great cost to the town, but they're also at a lot of cooperation with state agencies that involve permitting, which sometimes takes months, if not years. So some of the delays you're seeing as projects go underway, including the Lake Street Bridge project, have to do with some state last-minute changes and things like that. So we appreciate everyone's patience as we move towards the completion of this year's traffic season. We've also been working on affordable housing. We continue to push forward with the Washington Swanton Street project, as you see on the lower portion of that slide. We continue to advance the Waterfield Civico project, and we move forward with the 8789 Cross Street project, which is progressing. In addition, we're engaging in a process to update the housing production plan, which is kicking off again in the next few weeks. Later on, I'll be before you and asking you to support Article 11. Article 11 is in furtherance of the Waterfield development and authorizes the town to acquire what's been known around here for almost a decade now as the orphan parcel. You can see it in the red there, but it basically straddles the entranceway to the Waterfield lot and a portion of the Waterfield lot as well. Additionally, this summer, the Select Board, my colleagues and I, we engaged in a goal-setting exercise, and we certainly spent a significant time, and we continue and will spend additional time honing in on Select Board goals that we think can span multiple boards. As I scroll through them, you'll see that these topics should be familiar to everyone. A lot of the ideas were taken out of the master plan and are not unique to our board, but have been championed by several boards previously. I did want to dovetail into two of these goals, which we've spent a considerable amount of time at these meetings talking about and this summer in between town meetings, which is the financial plan. We've been focused on furthering the financial plan and figuring out the most complex piece of the financial plan, which is to satisfy the capital needs of the town that we know are needed and are coming. I'll be the first of a few speakers this evening who will touch on these needs, and we will continue to work with these stakeholders to craft a financial plan that is more and more coming into focus. So how does it come into focus? Over the summer, we've been gathering information, many studies funded by this group. This summer, we had several capital stakeholder presentations. We've met with the chair and vice chair of the capital committee on multiple occasions. We engaged in a school and municipal playground evaluation. We reviewed results of the capital process for FY25. We evaluated the capital needs FY26 through FY29, which is an ongoing process in a fluid situation. We formed a CPA working group led by members Mike Betancourt and Anthea Brady. And we look to utilize the remaining ARPA funds to help ease the capital burden on the town. As a result, the board is committed in the coming months to finalizing a financial plan and funding plan that addresses the capital concerns along with the customary budget work with the town manager's office and the other stakeholders. There are steps this body can take during this town meeting to move the town forward and help us in this process. The first step is to support Article 5 in its entirety. Article 5 is sprinkled with projects that we can fund right now for construction, but several engineering projects that are vital to determining the ultimate financial plan. These projects are not going away. They are imperative. They are building envelope projects such as windows, roofs, and also structural integrity projects. If they're not funded now, we will be back in the spring to ask that they be funded. If they're not funded in the spring, I'm sure this board will be back in the next fall asking to have them funded. All the while that we continue to delay in this design work will lead to additional costs in construction as time goes on. We'll do our part to find a funding source. My board is committed to that. If you watched, and I hope you didn't, our meeting that lasted 4 hours last Monday, you saw a consensus amongst all of us to roll up our sleeves and get this done. We don't have an exact number yet because we're waiting on several pieces to come in, and we need to dig more. But you have a commitment from myself and my board that this will be our top priority. Starting on November 27th, when we reconvene after this town meeting, it will be on the agenda. We will continue to work through this until we have it ready for action, either by the voters or by this body. But we need your help, and it starts with approving Article 5. The second step is to join my colleagues and I in supporting all the other articles that I have listed here. Article 6, our playground improvements for the Leonard Field and McDonald Field, which are long overdue. Article 7, increasing the borrowing for the Morocco Culvert project to get the final flood mitigation project, something that I think is one of the greatest accomplishments this town has ever undertaken, finished and complete. We need to increase the borrowing for Arbor Wendell Lane Street Pump Station, which is water quality issue and water pressure issue for that area. We need to support the EFPBC's article for the engineering services for repair and remediation for the Winchester High School. Article 18, solar panels for the new Lynch School. And Article 22, to vote to transfer from free cash or other available funds to the Employee Healthcare and Health Insurance Stabilization Fund, which was created by this body last spring. If you do your job and support all those articles, then we can finish our work. We will work collaboratively with our stakeholders to finalize the plan and the funding strategy. Short term, the funding strategy is a debt exclusion override to fund immediate needs related to building improvements such as roofs, windows, and HVAC work, and high priority recreation projects. We will also utilize the remaining ARPA funds to ease the capital burden we've already received staff recommendations that we will weigh in the coming weeks on how to spend that money on capital improvements. Long-term funding, and this is nothing new, but the strategy needs to be an increase in funding to the Capital and Building Stabilization Fund, the passage of the CPA, which my colleagues will give a report on later during this town meeting, and leveraging the VFA software that we funded to optimize budget decisions for maintenance and capital needs as we move forward. The details of the strategy, like I said, will be worked out in the coming months, but the financial plan will encompass all of these strategies. I have tasked, and they have agreed, Michelle Pryor and John Fallon to lead our efforts. Why do we need to do this, and why is the time now, and why is it so important to get moving on this engineering work, even though we haven't finished the funding analysis yet? According to one engineering firm that we've worked with, the RS Means Historical Cost Index in the last 10 years prior to 2021 rose at a level of 2.5% per year. Between January 21st and January 2023, this historical cost index increased 26.64%.
Mr. Mucci, you have reached your 10 minutes.
Can I have one more minute?
Town meeting, speaker would like to extend one more minute. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. 1 minute.
Thank you. This means that construction costs are going up at historic levels, and we need to be prepared. We need to have shovel-ready projects to move forward, or we face the inevitable, which means they're going to go up in price. These are some of the examples that we're looking for engineering work this evening. And I see Pete Lawson in the back. You can grab him at a break, and he will give you a dissertation about all our buildings. To the left is the Lincoln Flatwork. In the middle is the Mystic School windows. To the right is your library roof. To your left are the library windows. And you can ask our library director, who I see in the back, how she keeps the snow out of the library during the winter. In the middle, you have the Lincoln Chiller, the roof that is a Band-Aid preventing flooding of the library, and you have our DPW storage shed to the right. All critical infrastructure that we need to address immediately. Finally, our playgrounds, and you'll hear more about this, and I won't belabor the point. But the time has ended for us using road signs to hold our playgrounds together. You have the opportunity to do extraordinary things tonight. We can work collaboratively. We can do this. It is inevitable that we're going to need to spend this money to make these repairs. And I ask you to join the Select Board in supporting all these articles and keeping us on this journey to get this done for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mucci. Further under Article 1, we will hear from the town manager, Beth Rudolph.
Good evening, Madam Moderator and town meeting members. I'm pleased to come before you this evening to provide an update on various town initiatives, including a look back at FY23 and a look ahead at the town's capital and financial needs. As the moderator noted, 2023 has been a year of significant change in our municipal departments, due in part to the retirement of several long-term department heads and the hiring of new staff. I'm grateful to the dedication and efforts of our staff, new and old, over the past year to manage the work of town government. And shout out to the Chamber of Commerce for this beautiful picture of our town hall that I stole from their website, so copyright that. Moving on to financial matters. The town has had a financially healthy close out to fiscal year 23. Our property and motor vehicle tax revenues met expectations, and we had a healthy departmental turnbacks of approximately $3.3 million. This includes approximately $1.2 million turned back from our health insurance budget due to changes in our health insurance provider effective July 1st of 2022. This change was initiated by management as part of the FY23 budget process and resulted in significant savings for the town and our employees in FY23 and FY24. The Department of Revenue certified the town's free cash balance at just over $20 million in September of 2023, which was up from $16.7 million certified last fall. Town meeting is being asked to appropriate approximately $1.76 million from free cash from this fall for various items. Based on the certified free cash balance, the operating reserve at the end of FY23 is 18.64%, up from 16.2% at the end of FY22. DOR also certified the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund retained earnings at $1.93 million, up from $1.56 million last fall, and the Recreation Enterprise Fund retained earnings was certified at just over $883,000, which is up significantly from where we were last fall due to the hard work and creativity of our Recreation Director and their department staff. This slide shows the free cash and retained earning balances over the past 7 fiscal years. Free cash balances have trended upwards since FY18, due in part to conservative financial management during the years of COVID uncertainty. Despite the healthy balance of free cash certified for FY23, the town faces challenges in the shortfall and faces financial challenges in the short and long term as it relates to our capital planning needs and our operational budget growth trends. Starting this month, our municipal departments will begin developing their budgets for FY25. That information will be used to develop the FY25 manager's budget due in mid-February, as well as the 3-year financial model for FY26 through FY28, which will help project operating reserve trends over the coming years. Additionally, as you heard from the Capital Planning Committee in the past and we'll hear again tonight, the town's capital needs are at a critical point where short-term funding needs cannot be met by available capital and building stabilization funds. We can no longer defer or delay these projects, which are necessary to maintain our buildings and infrastructure in a state of good repair. As town manager, it's my highest priority, working in concert with town staff, the Select Board, Capital Planning Committee, and Finance Committee to find ways to address this short-term funding crisis and develop a sustainable long-term capital funding strategy, which will include the need for alternate funding sources. It also makes sense at this time to review the roles and responsibilities of each party in the capital process as it relates to the town charter, bylaws, and de facto practices that have evolved over the past several decades. This is particularly important as the town considers the potential adoption of the Community Preservation Act, which will require its own long-term planning process. Each year, the town manager's office works with our department heads to develop capital requests for the coming year, as well as 5-year plans. In preparing these requests, department heads utilize a variety of information, including long-term plans related to vehicle fleet maintenance, building maintenance and repairs, bridge and dam safety, and our recently completed transportation master plan. Once received, the town manager's office and capital planning committee work in concert to evaluate departmental requests and develop the articles that come before town meeting each fall and spring. This figure provides a summary of the requested and projected capital needs over the next 5 years, including the value of projects proposed to be funded this fall and spring through the capital and building stabilization funds. Also shown is a significant funding shortfall in the current year, where over $11 million in project requests were not able to be funded. I'm pleased to note, however, that the projects proposed to be funded this fall include necessary safety improvements to our schools, to our school and municipal playgrounds, as well as the evaluation of needed repairs at the Packer Ellis tennis courts. Funding is also proposed for several important engineering studies, which are critical so that staff can develop accurate construction cost estimates for future capital requests, and so that the projects can be completed in a timely manner. Finally, I'd like to take a moment to recognize a few of the events happening this fall as we head into the holiday season. The Chamber of Commerce will be holding its annual holiday stroll and Midnight Madness events between November 27th and December 3rd. The Winchester Cultural Council and Cultural District are sponsoring their first annual townwide open studio event on November 18th. And building on the work of the communications study that was reported to town meeting last fall, the town has hired the Collins Center for Public Management to assist with the development of a formal communications plan. Everyone should have received a flyer when you entered town meeting this evening with instructions on how to access an online survey, which will be open through December 8th. So we request that you help us out by responding to that survey. Thank you for your time this evening, and I look forward to participating in the discussion on the matters before us. Thank you.
Next up on Article 1, we'll hear from the Chair of FinCom.
Yeah, move, right arrow will go forward and back. Ooh, that opened nice. That's it. So forward and back.
Oops, is that full?
No.
I didn't do that. Thank you, Madam Moderator. I am pleased to report the work of Finance Committee. Our 15 members come from each and every precinct in the town. There is regular turnover of our members. On average, 4 new members join each year. The vast majority do not serve more than 2 3-year terms. The time commitment is too high. I look forward, myself, to finishing my year as chair and then retiring after 6 years on FinCom. Last year, led by Me Lin Trong, FinCom brought a structurally balanced budget to town meeting, the first in more than a decade. We continued the practice begun by Megan Blackwell, the prior year chair, of January precinct meetings with you to discuss town finances, to answer questions, and to take suggestions. And last year, FinCom created the first handbook for town meeting members, which is available in PDF. Our 15 members have degrees in business, economics, accounting, and management. Members have relevant experience in public and private sectors, have proven skills in analytics, finance, statistics, and financial modeling. Many have undergraduate and graduate degrees in engineering and science. Many have children in town schools. All have a deep commitment to Winchester. This is a direct quote from page 5 of the Mass Association of Town Finance Committees handbook. I'll let you read it, but I want to tell you a couple things. FinCom's sole obligation is to you, the 190 members of town meeting. FinCom is in a unique position carefully established by our town charter. We advise you, town meeting, on financial matters, but our advice is not binding. We have no authority over town meeting, none. FinCom can't buy a pencil, can't spend a dime. The positions we take on articles are advice, they're words. Town meeting is free to accept them, to adjust, or to ignore our advice. Members of Finance Committee come and go. The advice in the Mass Finance Committee handbook, though, is sound. Finance Committee's ability to provide independent and carefully considered advice to town meeting is worth defending. As one goal for FY25, FinCom will strive to recommend a structurally balanced budget once again. We take this duty very seriously. Each year, FinCom meets 50 to 60 times. In the aggregate, members contribute more than 2,000 hours to the creation and presentation of the annual budget to you. Individual write-ups by our members review every budget line item in detail. Our records over many years document fiscal trends in detail. FinCom tracks why funds were requested and how they were spent in subsequent years. We are your eyes and ears. The work strains the capacity of our 15 members every spring. No member can hide from the work. Time is short between February 15th and the end of spring break, when our work must be finished. A second goal in FY25 is to ensure the town maintains its AAA bond rating. And a third goal is to continue working cooperatively to implement best practices that improve financial forecasts for long-term capital requirements. Addressing the town's capital needs is a challenge that will soon face town meeting. Increased investment is likely to be required over multiple years. FinCom is placed in the middle of this by the Charter, Section 6-7. We are required to catch the town manager's 5-year capital improvement plan each year and to provide advice to you at Springtown meeting on the financial aspects of that plan. To familiarize town meeting members with best practices in capital programming, we commend our October 24th public meeting with Chris Gordon. Chris is a nationally recognized expert on public capital programming. He is a 32-year resident, and he brings a lot of common sense and a very simple approach. FinCom is hopeful that by January 15th, 2024, the process in Section 6-7 of our charter for annually updated 5-year capital programs will be in place with cost estimates, time schedules, and funding sources identified by the Select Board and Capital Planning Committee. FinCom will do whatever is required to help. We expect to be providing advice at Springtown meeting in support of that capital program at the same time the FinCom presents the FY25 operating budget.
Dr. Miller, you have reached your 5 minutes.
I have 15 seconds.
All right, take your 15 seconds.
We look forward to a very productive year, serving town meeting and getting ready to provide useful advice on each fiscal issue that comes before you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, under Article 1, we'll be hearing from the Chair of the School Committee, Mr. Tom Hopcroft.
The arrows, yep. Forward and back. Okay. All right. Good morning, or good evening, sorry, I don't know what time of day it is. Good evening, Madam Moderator, boards and committees, town meeting members, and Winchester residents. My name is Tom Hopcroft. I rise as the chair of your school committee, here to give the school committee report. I'd like to start by acknowledging the passing of Peter Rowe. For those who knew him, he was a kind and gentle and very thoughtful individual, and everyone who knew him misses him dearly. I'd also like to acknowledge the members of the school committee, and in particular our 2 student members, as well as our district leadership, and take the opportunity to introduce Andrew Marin, who is our new Director of Finance and Operations. Our mission is centered around academic achievement, social emotional development, and a lifelong love of learning. With COVID behind us, the school committee and district leadership are guided by a strategic framework that is dynamic and responsive to the needs of our students, staff, and community. This 3-pronged approach puts teaching and learning at the core, with community, culture, and well-being to enable our students to access that teaching and learning, and operations and system supports to ensure that everything runs smoothly. Looking at the district at a glance, Springtown meeting approved our fiscal 24 budget with a maintenance of services, an enrollment-driven increase in Mandarin because we had a bunch of students at McCall who were moving on wonderfully, and we needed to expand some capacity, as well as a 14% statewide increase in out-of-district tuition fees. While we had no major program expansion, we had a lot of professional development and lots of progress on curriculum in areas such as universal K-2 literacy screening, civic action projects, and performance-based assessments. Turning to enrollment, we're beginning to see a tick back upwards. We have 4,309 students in K through 12. This is a net increase of 40 students since October 1st of last year until last Friday, I believe. What's notable is that 38 of those students, of those 40 students, are in K through 5. This FY24 year-to-date actual enrollment is 100 students above our FY24 budget projection, which had included a reduction in sections, as you may recall, from the spring. We're waiting to see how many students we get from the River and Cambridge Street developments throughout the year, and so we'll keep you posted on that. And we're planning an enrollment study, so we'll have a lot more insights into the enrollment numbers at the Springtown meeting. I'd like to take a moment just to quickly preview some of the warrant articles. And the first one will be very quick because it's really just a thank you for supporting Article 13 on the consent agenda today. If you want to learn more about this one, talk to me on one of the breaks. I'd also like to talk about Article 14, which is really about consolidation of rental funds and removal of the year-end cutoff for maintenance and upkeep in our school buildings. So consolidation enables the prioritization of work based on need versus the rental location. And this is a bit of an equity issue because our newer and nicer spaces tend to rent more frequently, and some of the other spaces, which may not be as new or as nice, or they may just be the hallway or foyer on the way to the rented space, are not able to be funded because they're not technically rented. So we want to consolidate the revenue that we receive across all of the school properties to be used where there's the most need within any property that needs it. The other piece of this is the removal of the year-end cutoff. So this would enable work to be done in the summer after the June 30th fiscal year end, rather than piecemeal on nights and weekends throughout the year at a higher labor cost. So there's no question here about the school committee. The Mass Legislature has given us the authority to collect the money and to spend the money. It's really just a matter of, can we use it in the places that it's most needed and in the time that's most efficient to be used. Lynch at Elementary at Parkhurst, we have 14 modular classrooms up there, individually climate controlled, some new parking, some new bathrooms. My son is there. It's wonderful. Really want to say a thank you to the EFPBC, the DPW, the school department, and everyone else who literally moved heaven and earth to get that expanded school facility set up there. Also, a huge special thanks to all the teachers and administrators for making it so welcoming for all of our students. And I literally have like one slide left, or well, two slides, sorry. The Lynch Elementary School, this is our town's first all-electric net zero building. It's designed to house the Lynch Elementary students, the town-wide integrated pre-K program, as well as being used for community events. It's currently out to bid right now. Construction's likely to begin in January 2024, with the building scheduled to open in the fall of 2025.
Just you've reached your 5 minutes. Town meeting, can I please give Mr. Hopcroft 2 additional minutes? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it.
It's very kind of you, and I'll try to use only 30 seconds of it. In closing, I can attest that we have a very high-functioning school department with dedicated teachers who are working very hard for every student to reach their full potential. We want to thank town meeting for providing the support and the funding necessary, to enable the growth, development, and success of all of our students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hopcroft. Next up, and our final speaker under Article 1 will be a representative from the Educational Facilities Planning and Building Committee. Many of you may recognize it as its acronym, which is the EFPBC. Mr. Chris Nixon on their behalf. While they get it ready, a few town meeting members had asked specifically to hear from this committee, and so I conveyed that request, and they are here tonight to share the updates on all of the school buildings. Just so you all know, they are charged with the preparation and periodic adjustment of the school facilities master plan, and also makes recommendations and oversees design and construction for all of the school district facilities. For example, they oversaw the construction of this building, of VO, many of the things that are going on today. There are 11 members on the committee, which there is at least one registered architect and one registered engineer, and the superintendent of schools also sits on the committee. The appointing authority includes the select board and the school committee, totaling 4 seats, the moderator 5 seats, and 1 seat by FinCom.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm going to rely on the presenter notes tonight, so I'm sorry that this is shrunk down a little bit. It's my pleasure to be with you. Good evening, town meeting members, staff, and friends. I may ask Matt for some help. The cursor is not working for me.
Yeah.
All right. That's all right. So I'm going to have to click through. No problem. So tonight, I bring you some good news, some tough news, and some wonderful news. I'm going to deliver it in that order, beginning and ending with the Lynch project. So, first of all, we've accomplished so much up at Parkhurst that Mr. Hopcroft just shared with you, with work on the site, the new parking lot, the modular classrooms, and the building improvements. The old ball field that was there at the north end of the site has been removed. We've installed a stormwater retention infrastructure below, and we have the temporary parking lot in place. This lot will be removed once Lynch opens in the fall of '25, and we will restore the field to its condition. I am going to try to make this there. I'll just wing it. How about that? Okay, last spring town meeting. Okay, I'll try again. Last spring town meeting, our modulars were under construction in Pennsylvania, and by August, the 14 had arrived on site. They were up on piers and ready for the plumbing and electrical connections. In addition to the temporary work that we've done at the north end of the site, we're pleased to have actually made some substantial investments in the south end of the site as well. That hardscape on the south end of the building, which was actually off limits to Vincent Owen students in 2010 because we could not afford to do the work, has been completely renovated, and it's really exciting to see kids enjoying this space today. Wouldn't typically want to make it a highlight of a town meeting presentation to show you handrails and guardrails, but importantly, we were able to include this as well. This was actually the last project we needed to do at Parkhurst to make it now a fully accessible building. Between all the work that was done in 2010 for VO, the elevator that you approved a couple of years ago, we can now officially say Parkhurst is an ADA accessible school building. The classrooms were in pretty good shape overall, with some patching and some painting and some new flooring. And the transfer of educational technology from the old Lynch, the spaces are ready to go at the start of the school year. Wrapping up, the 14 modular classrooms, the temporary parking lot, and the site improvements were all installed on time. At $5.85 million budgeted in 2021 at Springtown meeting, we came pretty close, awarding or encumbering just under $6 million for the work. So now let's move on to the other good news at Lynch. The design is pretty much as you saw it at schematic design. Three elements of the building, if you will, situated on the site to break up the mass of the building. Here's a view from Chesterford Road looking east. Get a sense of how the building integrates with both the front of the site and the rear Lynch playfields. And if we hover over Horn Pond and we look towards Pond Street at the bottom, another view. And then finally from the neighborhood by Horn Pond Brook, you can get a sense to the left where the existing building is today, how we can integrate structured play areas and artificial turf and parking with ground-mounted solar canopies. On the interiors, the design team has used color in an elegant way for wayfinding. We've brought in natural light in a very deliberate way into these spaces. Materials were chosen with input from a focus group from the Lynch community. And we're pleased to share that we're able to provide in the new building a regulation basketball court, just as we have in the existing building today. Sorry, it's running ahead on me here. So where do we stand? Okay, our reconciled estimates at 90% look pretty good. We're pretty confident we're going to be on budget. The building is fully permitted. We went out to bid on October 11th. We did extend the bid dates for filed subbids and general contractors due to popular request, and we're certainly interested in getting as many bids as we can. EFPBC is expecting to vote to authorize award at our meeting on December 4th. And we would expect the contractor to take control of the site sometime around mid-December. You can see all of these images and learn more about the project at lynch25.com. Now on to the tough news at Winchester High School in Article 12, which seeks funding for a design and engineering package to address some structural failures that we have going on here, but not for the actual work. That will have to come later. DPW did notice during COVID some deterioration of flooring on the first floor of the building in areas that are original to the 1970 construction. The EFPBC did authorize a study from a forensic structural engineer That work was performed this summer, gave us a lot more information and understanding of what's going on. We've been able to confirm 2 different chemical processes that are contributing to the deterioration. Both topside, as you see here, this is what it looks like when the floor comes up, but also we have some issues down below in the crawl space. The good news is the building is totally safe today. These areas are limited in number, but they're significant, and they're growing, and the deterioration is accelerating. So I look forward to presenting to you all Article 12 on Thursday, more detail, and taking your questions. It's going to be an expensive fix. Now let me pivot to the great news. As many of you know, the MSBA is our financial partner on the Lynch project, just as they were here for Winchester High School and for Vincent Owen. They give us a percentage of reimbursement on our eligible expenses.
Mr. Nixon, as much as I know town meeting would love to hear the great news, how much time do you need?
I think I can get in under 3 minutes if I can just manage the Kluge presentation here. So can I ask for 3?
All those in favor? All those opposed? Please proceed.
Thank you so much. So historically, the MSBA has raised the construction cost cap to account for increases in construction costs, just as Mr. Mucci was describing earlier. We were really pleased in December when they did this because typically it's done for projects that are coming, not ones that are already in the pipeline. So in December, as you all may remember, they did vote to raise that cap, and that meant more reimbursement for our project, less long-term borrowing. So the great news is they've actually done it again. 2 weeks ago today, the board voted to raise the construction cost cap to $516 per square foot, along with some other allowances for site. There are many elements of our project that are ineligible, and we also do not receive 100% of the reimbursement rate. So there's some calculus for the MSBA to entertain, and that's going to take a couple of weeks. But we conservatively anticipate at least $2.6 million in additional reimbursement, which is great because in an area of rising interest rates, anything we can save off long-term borrowing is good news. So we're pleased about that. Here's a popular question we've received a lot in the what's going on with Morocco. So for newer town meeting members, in the run-up to this town meeting, we have received this question. You can go to lynch2025.com, actually click on the What About Morocco page. You'll find a riveting presentation by Mr. Betancourt and myself on behalf of the Select Board and the school committee at the time, where we presented the foundation for the Morocco Life Extension Plan. Not to extend that building for another 30 years, but to seek a modest amount of money to extend that building until a replacement, sometime between 2028 to 2030. That's still the plan. We're excited that the school department is going to engage in an updated enrollment and demographic study this year, and the EFPBC looks forward to joining with the school committee seeking funding for an updated master plan soon. These 2 exercises are foundational for us to understand what a new Morocco can and should be. Your EFPBC team, tremendous volunteers. They represent a diverse number of trades and specialties: engineering, law, contracting, architecture, interior design, etc. The committee has been busy since spring town meeting, reviewing hundreds of pages of drawings and specifications, assisting the select board in its solar analysis, reviewing pre-qualification packages of subs and general contractors, over 70 packages. We've closed out the scope at Parkhurst, and we've made site visits with the design team in DPW, including Mr. Lawson, to Ambrose, and to Vincent Owen, in a lessons learned exercise to see what design details and finishes have held up well and what haven't. Finally, I want to just recognize the staff that help us be effective. Specifically, thank you to Aaron Allen and Frida, and to Andrew Marin and Meg White. These professionals are fantastic. They work tirelessly in the background so that we can get our work done. I appreciate your attention very much. Thank you.
Thank you. To the EFPBC. That concludes Article 1. Again, I'll read the motion. We'll take a quick voice vote. A majority vote is required. And it is moved and seconded that the reports of town officers, boards, committees, including the Finance Committee, be received and filed. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion passes. All the reports now, including all the written reports, are on file with town meeting and will also be available if you have any additional, or look at them on the town meeting's website on winchester.us. Moving on, we are going to Article 2. It is moved and second that the town approve Article 2 as printed in the warrant. That is, we are going to hear the, the report of the planning board.
Forwards and backwards. I think I can manage that.
On behalf of the planning board, we have the chair, Deb Jurius. As you are the proponent, you have 10 minutes.
Good evening, town meeting. Thank you, Madam Moderator. And I spelled it correctly this time. I added an E at the end. I blame my French teachers. Good evening, Winchester residents and town meeting members. I'm the current chair of the planning board, and I am pleased to present to you this fall's planning board report. It has been a tumultuous year for the planning board, but I think we're getting back to an even keel. We are very pleased to welcome Taylor Herman. Say hi to Taylor. As our new town planner, welcome on board. The planning board can only get work done due to the dedicated professionals in town hall and the dedicated volunteers on all of the boards and committees that we work with. I want to give a shout out to our administrative assistant, Suzanne Gill. Hi, Suzanne. I would also like to acknowledge the support of the rest of town staff, which has helped keep the planning board ship afloat and moving forward over the last year in between town planners. And hopefully there will be no further nautical metaphors in my talk. This evening, I am really going to be focusing on the planning board's work on the MBTA 3A Communities Act. It's really mostly that, a little bit of the North Main Street revitalization initiative. There are 3 other topics on this slide. I will most likely not get to them, but if you go out on the table outside, there's a little piece of paper with a little QR code, and if you scan that, you will get a copy of the entire set of slides, because I know you want them. Okay, this is probably the 6th time, I counted, that I have been before you talking to you about MBTA 3A Community Act. And I hope that none of you are, at this point, unfamiliar with it, and I'm sure none of you are surprised to hear from me again. Winchester is obligated by law to zone for a minimum number of units within a minimum land area and an average unit density. Most importantly, in these districts, multi-unit housing must be permitted by right. This is definitely an oversimplification. There are lots of little knobs to twirl. If you have questions, I urge you to join us on November 21st, where we'll have our first in-person public community conversation. So just as I've been reminding you since 2021 about this, I should also remind you that the effort to increase the affordability of housing in Winchester and the complementary aim of improving support for local businesses and increased commercial tax receipts is something the board has been working on for quite some time. I am going to give props to the 2015 OGPB members, that's planning board members, and town meeting, who between both of them in 2015 oversaw a set of changes to our center business district zoning. A few of the priorities of the zoning were to ensure economic vitality in the town center, enhance commercial and residential tax base, promote and protect historic resources and small town character, encourage smart development, promote more diverse housing alternatives to accommodate the needs of our community. That's all in the preamble. Now, the main tool used in that zoning revision was to increase the number of units that could be built in the CBD. And that zoning provided sufficient density and capacity that we have found that we can use the exact same dimensional requirements passed by this body, or by most of you probably, in 2015, to obtain compliance in those areas for MBTA 3A. There are other compliance requirements that we still have to work on, but that's a big one. Since 2015, the planning board has continued to look at ways to increase affordability of housing and to spur economic development. And I'm going to focus on our master plan, which I hope all of you have read. I'm really pleased that the select board continues to find it a great place for at least get quotes and also get good ideas. The 2030 Comprehensive Master Plan speaks directly to these combined efforts. It recognizes the importance of a number of evolving opportunity areas, such as North Main Street, the Main Street north of Skillings, as well as the light industrial areas and those parts of town which were once part of them, such as Swanton Street, Holton Street, and Cross Street. I'm just going to go through a few of the quotes from there because this is all part of what we look at when we're doing the planning. While the MBTA 3A Communities Act may have appeared to come out of nowhere to many communities, the goals and strategies are not new to Winchester, and we've been moving forward for some years in this direction, in the same direction. So have we been successful since 2015? And the data say that we have not been successful. Only a handful of new units have been built in the CBD since then. While the planning board is the first to remind everyone that changes take time, and zoning only sets the stage for future development if the market and resources and finances and labor and the planets all line up. But we're facing a significant housing shortage in Massachusetts that we do not have the luxury of waiting another 10 years to figure out if things are working. So to put it another way, instead of fixing the growing hole in our boat, we are using the same size and number of buckets to bail, and we are failing. It's not working. So one of the things that is this concept that's come about over the last many years in planning and housing is this concept of the missing middle. And here's a picture of that. And it's the type of housing which exists between your single-family homes and your low to mid-rise apartments. It's duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, it's townhomes. It's much more affordable than single-family homes and much more acceptable in the suburban environment. It provides housing options for 25 to 35-year-old younger adults looking at their first residence before or just at the onset of starting family. It provides housing opportunities for our seniors or for independent or those who want independent living, or for independent living for those of us with disabilities or family members with them. It's also the type of housing that we do not have in Winchester. It is the type of housing that MBTA 3A is hoping to establish. So at some level, I think we all know what impact there is on our community when we don't have affordable housing. It destabilizes, it's a destabilizing influence on families. It forces family members to live geographically separated. It makes it more difficult for intergenerational care, whether it's for an elderly grandparent living 30 to 45 minutes away or grandchildren living 2 towns over. Conversely, we know that the lack of housing for seniors is causing some to need to move in with their children, and I'm sure we're all familiar with the stress that can have on families. Younger generations have a significantly larger financial burden. The later generations do not. I'm talking about school loans. By not providing affordable housing for them, we are effectively locking them out of our community. People living in smaller units near public transit and taking advantage of multimodal transportation don't need to assume the burden of a vehicle at around $1,000 a month. That could instead be going to local businesses or to be paying off their student loans. In either case, it benefits both the community and themselves. So these populations our housing is not serving are also the ones in the households which I like to call net positive to the town. They pay more in taxes than they cost the town in services, and they typically don't have children in our public schools. On the grimmer side, if we do not achieve the MBTA 3A compliance, the town risks losing access to substantial sources of funding from the Commonwealth. The planning board is working with the town manager to get a more quantitative idea of what that is, but if you think we've got enough money, then I invite you all to join us at the weekly capital planning meetings. You will be very welcome. Okay. So what do we gain from this? So aside from getting housing for that population we're not serving, we get enhanced opportunities for our residents to stay in Winchester, their family and friends. We stabilize families. We revitalize our beleaguered commercial districts. There's an investment in street vitality and amenities and local businesses. an enhanced commercial tax base, an increase in the revenue positive households in town, and it makes it a better place to live. And what you see behind us is a picture of what Main Street looks like, and next to it is what we call a complete streets view, which is all the different ways that you can create a lively residential mixed commercial area. So, I am going to blaze through this quickly. One of the reasons I am is because you can get that piece of paper outside with the QR code and you can read this. So, some of the requirements of the 3A Act. You can get this, and I hope you join us on November 21st for the in-person community conversation. So we're able to meet the requirements for minimum number of units, density, and area using our existing dimensional zoning bylaws. We have sufficient buffer that we can make reasonable adjustments to our districts and still be in compliance. We are so lucky in Winchester. We have that capability. So many towns do not.
DM Jurius, you have reached your 10 minutes.
Madam Moderator, may I have 2 more?
Town meeting, the speaker would like an additional 2 minutes. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to go very quickly. Thank you. So the big change is that previously where multi-unit structures are mostly only allowed through special permit, this law requires they go through the standard permitting process. And in reality, that's how zoning should be. We shouldn't need special permits. Our zoning should be clear about what we want and how to achieve it so that they can go ahead. Special permits significantly increase the time and the cost of development, and when projects have passed all those checks and gone to their final approvals, the financial environment has changed, and approved housing may be delayed further or just not happen at all. And we see that now. We've had one large project that's been approved in the CBD, and it's on hold because of the financials. So we have 3 different things we can tweak. We can tweak land area, capacity, and zoning. These are the parameters that go into our model, or these are the knobs we tweak. In this is our provisional overlay district where we have Parkview, we have the southern part of North Main Street, lower North Main if you will, the GBD2. We have a little bit right above North Wedge Pond. We have some high-density housing there already, and we have the CBD. So these are the 4 districts. They're overlay districts, which means the existing zoning is still in place if you want to do a non-multifamily resident. This is the input to the model. These is actually straight out of our zoning pretty much, so we're using our existing dimensional units requirements, and we are able to achieve the capacity, the density, and the number, and the, the land area with those. So we have room we can move on. We have a timeline to town meeting. So hopefully this coming town meeting was the last time you will hear from the planning board. I sure hope so. I should note I haven't said anything about design guidelines, which are an important part of this. Our existing design guidelines are too strict by the state. They have to be very subjective and they cannot be too onerous financially, so we're going to work through that. We have a zoning review advisory committee. We just formed it. We have some great town volunteers. Some of them are the first time they've shown up in a committee, which is amazing. So those are meeting. We are having an outreach. I don't know, did I tell you that we have a meeting on November 21st in person? I'm sorry if I forgot that. So we will continue our outreach over the next several months. We really want to hear from you. You are the body which is going to approve this or disapprove this. So we really want to know what your concerns are. You can always reach us, and we'll come up to it. And so these are all the slides you are not going to get to see this evening. But you can email the planning board and the town planner, Taylor in the back, at planningboard@winchester.us. Please contact us. We will be contacting you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So November 21st, right? We got that? Okay. November 21st at the Jenks. All right, at this time, town meeting, we are going to take a break. Good point. All those in favor of accepting the report of the planning board and placing the report on file? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it and the motion passes. We are now going to move to a break. We're going to take 15 minutes, so if you can be back here at 8:10, that would be great. All the precincts, you have meetings. There are a lot of open seats right now for town meeting. And there are also a lot of spots open for volunteers. So if you can go over to the town clerk's desk and look for that listing, and I'll talk about it more when we return. See you in 15. Capital planning.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Alan Iden, and you are watching WinCam's coverage of the first session of Winchester's Fall 2023 Town Meeting. Town meeting's in recess for the moment, so let's recap what we've seen so far, or heard from so far. There were 10 articles on the consent agenda. Those are traditionally articles that are not anticipated to have any debate. Town meeting members do have the opportunity to remove them from the consent agenda if they so desire for regular consideration. But those 10 articles were approved unanimously. And the meeting had opened at 6:45. There were introductions of numerous town new hires and some comments on those folks who had passed, including Sherman Whip Saltmarsh, who passed away a month or so ago. The preliminary motions were passed, such as allowing cable TV coverage, and the consent agenda was unanimously passed. So the first article on the town meeting is the reports of various boards. We heard first from Richard Mucci, the chair of the select board, talked about the town's busy construction season and was appreciative of the patience of the town residents. He said the Cross Street construction should end this fall. On July 2024, the south side of the train station should be opening, with full opening in the fall of 2024. The Lake Street Bridge that's been closed for several months, they anticipate that finishing at the end of November. And he also talked about the select board's work on affordable housing and financial plans that focus on the capital needs of the town, and did comment that delays in capital projects only increase with increased construction costs. Town Manager Beth Rudolph was next, and she said there were a lot of turnover in staff, a lot of new staff in the town. She commented that several items on the budget came in under budget. Free cash is currently at $20 million and is trending upwards, all good news, and that the town manager's office is working on long-term capital plans. The chair of the Finance Committee mentioned the turnover in the Finance Committee, but commented on the expertise and skills of the members. He said the duty of the Finance Committee is to advise town meeting. The goals are a balanced budget, maintaining the town's AAA bond rating, improve financial forecasts, and increase investments in capital projects. Chair of the School Committee said the committee's goals were to nurture a love of learning and provide emotional support to the students of Winchester. Current enrollment is 3,409 students, is slightly trending upwards. The committee is wondering how many will come from the River Street and Cambridge Street projects once they're completed. He said the Lynch School had a successful move to Parkhurst as the plans go forward to demolish the Lynch and build a new Lynch School. He said that the Lynch School will be a net zero energy building when completed. We heard next from the EFPBC, the Educational Facilities Projects and Building Committee. Chris Nixon said, made some presentations on the Parkhurst swim space. The ADA work has been completed in there, so it is completely handicapped accessible in that rather old building. 14 modular classrooms were added there, and the whole project came in at about $6 million. There was some work in the lot to take part of a play field for a flood retention project, but that will be restored after the move back to the new Lynch School. He showed some renderings of the Lynch School layout on the site and some pictures, some renderings of the projected interior of the school. He said the project is out to bid. They hope to award the contract for construction on December 4th and have the contractor take possession of the site in December. Talked about some issues that I think we will hear about later on in town meeting, about some construction issues here at the high school in sections that were built originally in 1970. But the great news, he said, was the state funding, MSBA funding for Lynch was increased by about $2.6 million, reflecting increased construction costs. And finally, he said the plan to replace the Morocco School will be beginning in 2028. We heard last, before the recess, a report from the planning board, said a new town planner is on board. There is a 2030 master plan for North Main Street, and a lot of the discussion was on the new requirements by the state for zoning within certain radius of MBTA served, for communities that are served by the MBTA, must allow multi-unit housing within a certain radius of train stations. And the planning board is working on that and hopes to bring those plans to the spring town meeting. He said there will be a meeting on November 21st at the Jenks for public input on those plans. And the planning board continues to work on increasing affordable housing in the town. So that's what we've covered in the first half, or first session, portion of this town meeting. Again, this is Winchester's fall town meeting, first session. And the town meeting's in recess right now. We will be back with the coverage in a few minutes, and I'll be back with a wrap-up at the conclusion of tonight's session.
WinCam is more like the public library. It's a resource for folks who live or work in Winchester. But instead of loaning out books or those types of resources, we're loaning out cameras. People see us at government meetings like a town meeting or select board meeting, and they think that's sort of WinCam's role, but there's really a lot more to what we're covering and what we're documenting. For example, the high school sports that we cover. There's all kinds of community events that we not only document, but we normally will carry live, and we're actually archiving all of those too. So the town's history is actually being recorded. In addition, WinCam is a great place to pick up some professional production skills at a reduced price. People are often really surprised when they come down and visit us for the first time. They're amazed at the facility itself and the resources that we're able to offer to residents. People are always like, I can't believe I didn't know this was here. Well, access to media shouldn't be limited to those who can pay the high price, right? So that's what community media is all about. You should be able to come in and learn how to create your own media and you should be able to turn on your television or your computer and access local information and entertainment. That's what WinCam does really well. That's what we're all about. That's the mission. And that's what public access in its core was set up to do from the very beginning.
We need volunteers. In order to keep up the level of sports coverage WinCam currently provides, we are in need of additional support. What does WinCam cover? WinCam broadcasts Winchester High School volleyball, football, basketball, hockey, and more. These games stream live on our website, as well as on our cable channels. All games are then uploaded to YouTube for replay. If you're interested in sports broadcasting, camera operation, commentating, and more, email us at wincam@wincam.org to see how you can get involved. WinCam is excited to let you know about a new course we're offering to Winchester residents. Introduction to Video Editing in Adobe Premiere Pro is an intensive 5-session, one-on-one or small group course designed to provide a solid foundation in post-production. From file organization to color grading, we'll provide a comprehensive overview of the program, which has become the industry standard for video editing. Participants will learn by doing and leave having edited a polished scene. Premiere Pro is one of the top editing programs used by professionals, and since it's part of the Adobe Creative Cloud, Premiere integrates seamlessly with other industry standard programs such as After Effects for visual effects and Audition for audio mixing and editing. WinCam will soon offer courses in other software programs so students can get an education that elsewhere would cost thousands of dollars. Our class is ideal for students interested in pursuing media as a career, adults looking to broaden their skill set, or anyone who is passionate about content creation and the visual arts. This class will be taught on-site at WinCam by our Training and Outreach Coordinator, Kayla Avitabile.
Hi, I'm Kayla, and I'm excited to use my experience in video editing to help people in town learn these skills and bolster their media tool set. To learn more about how to sign up and course logistics, scan the QR code or visit wincam.org/adobe.
This course is offered year-round at $325 for all 5 sessions. Scholarships are also available for those in need of financial assistance. Finally, a year of membership to WinCam is included in the price of the course, giving you access to our state-of-the-art facilities and equipment.
We hope to see you here for this course. Soon, you'll be making videos just like this one.
Town meeting members, we have reached the end of our break time. Can you please take your seats? All newly elected town meeting members, please go get sworn in by the town clerk and get your clicker. Town meeting members, please take your seats. As a reminder, all newly elected town meeting members from your precincts, please go to the town clerk and get sworn in and get your clicker. I will not be waiting for you to get your clicker to hold the vote for you. All right, this is your final call. All newly elected members who just were appointed by your precincts, please go see the town clerk to get sworn in and receive your clickers to be able to vote. I will not be holding votes for you to go get your clicker. Town meeting members, please take a seat. Take your seats. Moving on to Article 4, it is moved and seconded that the Capital Planning Committee report for fiscal year 2025 be received and filed. On behalf of the Capital Planning Committee, we have the chair, Mr. Jimmy Johnson.
Sorry, I didn't log back in.
Hey, good evening, everybody. On behalf of the Capital Planning Committee, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Fall Town Meeting. Thank you, Madam Moderator, Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and town meeting members and citizens of Winchester for all the care and giving you give this town. Volunteerism is a great thing, and we have a lot of people who care about this town, and that's what we all care about is our town. You know, it's been a very distressing capital cycle for us, but at the same time, very satisfying. As a committee, we began our work right after Springtown meeting. We met department heads, had assembled their capital request. It went through town management. They reviewed them, and then they forward these requests to the Complete Capital Committee for our review and evaluation. When we interviewed the requestors, we asked details and a lot of information. Sometimes we got size from them on all the questions we asked because they were redundant. But we got good answers that allowed us to proceed with a very fair and open ranking process for this year. It made us understand the urgency of all our needs, even though we don't have enough money. The needs have outpaced the money we have available. So what do? Hi, guys. We go to the select board. The department head has an awful lot of tools available for them in assembling these requests. They're thorough, they're complete, and they're well thought out. This year, the building department also had requests for engineering review of 4 town roofs. You've heard about them: McCall, Ambrose, the library, and Town Hall. Were funded by the town meeting and reviewed by the town. We also looked at playgrounds, which was funded by the selectmen under ARCO funding. Periodic bridge inspections also fell into this project, which primarily was the Skillings Road Bridge and the culvert at Everett Ave. You know, it was very apparent before we started ranking projects that once again, and this time it really hit the moment of truth. It had arrived for those projects whose construction costs would far outweigh any of the funds we have in both stabilization funds. We needed help and we needed support. We needed the support from town meeting, we needed support from the selectmen, support from the finance committee, and ultimately all the citizens of Winchester. The roof inspections report indicated substantial portions of the McCall roof are in pretty tough shape and they should be replaced. The library roof requires immediate maintenance and a much longer term plan and possibly complete replacement. Town Hall, the beautiful slate roofs, well, they're in significant repair. It can be phased in, and it probably will. The best news is the Ambrose roof was a lot better shape than everybody anticipated. With some short-term repairs, it may give us five more years of useful life. Playgrounds. Well, we did a lot for playgrounds this year. Playground inspection showed that these assets were basically pretty bad shape. They were either worn out or shut down for safety reasons. Piece of equipment after piece of equipment was either broken or was failing. Bridge inspection indicated the bridges need work. The only bridges that need work are Shore Road Bridge and the Everett Ave culvert, thank God. So tonight, we're asking your support to help us move forward on preserving and improving the town's assets. Now, that was a distressing part. The satisfying part was we all worked together. We got a lot accomplished in this cycle, and I am pleased that we are going to replace a lot of vehicles. We're going to make playground improvements. We're going to repair and refurbish a couple school playground areas. We've got plans to address skin lights. We've got plans to engineering work to evaluate the Packets tennis courts, which is a great asset to this community, and, you know, probably even to the state. It's the biggest clay court in the state, possibly in New England. But these projects will all improve the recreation facilities of our town. And once again, I hope you understand the necessary and the necessity of proceeding with the capital plan this year. And for the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and Town Meeting, please vote yes on all these articles. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is moved and seconded that the Capital Planning Committee report for fiscal year 2025 be received and filed. A majority vote required. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion passes. Next up, we typically would go to Article 5. However, the moderator will be moving to Article 6 and coming back to 5. We have a request that we allow some of our younger members of our community speak, and they have bedtime. So we will be moving to Article 6, and then we're coming back to 5. And the proponents are ready to make that switch. It is moved and seconded that the town vote to appropriate $930,000 for the construction of playground facilities and other improvements at Leonard Field and McDonald Field, including engineering, construction, drainage, and site improvements, and all other costs incidental and related thereto, that to meet this appropriation, $730,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund established under Chapter 69 of the Acts of 2002 and $200,000 from fiscal year 2024 miscellaneous non-recurring revenue. Town meeting members, there are 4 residents who would like to speak in total regarding all of the capital planning sponsored articles. At this time, I'm just going to ask, as our tradition, we do need to vote it, but we do like to hear from all members of the community to have your approval to allow them to come to the microphones at the time that they have requested to speak on the articles, and just do that and take it all done in one. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. I will be telling you when you're getting a non-town meeting member speaker. On behalf of Article 6, we have the Capital Planning Committee jointly sponsored with the Select Board. To begin with, we will be hearing from the Chair of the Capital Planning Committee, Mr. Jimmy Johnson. The 2/3 vote is required for this to pass.
This is a feel-good article, and it's good for our children also. This is to improve Leonard's Field playground, McDonald Field playground equipment. As you know, these playgrounds were done over originally by, I think, the first and third year of the override program, when we many years ago, on the capital stabilization account. Well, like I said, the playground equipment's worn out or it's deemed unsafe. So with input from the Board of Selectmen and town management, we decided that this was the year to do some playground improvements. What we're requesting is $930,000, of which $730,000 will come from the Capital Stabilization Fund, and $200,000 of which is coming from miscellaneous non-reoccurring revenue, which came from negotiations the Select Board had with Eversource that had donated $200,000 towards capital improvements. They specifically identified, Eversource identified Leonard's Field, but we felt that it was an equity issue. I mean, you know, this construction's, try driving down Cross Street or Washington Street last year. You know what it's like. We feel that this is a slight acknowledgement to the citizens in those precincts that, you know, this is a little bit of a reward for putting up with horrendous conditions. And we're just glad we can present it tonight. And once again, we ask you to vote favorably on this article. Thank you.
Thank you. Further on the question, the co-sponsor of the Select Board, Vice Chair Anthea Brady.
All right, good evening. I'm Anthea Brady of the Select Board, and while this is a feel-good article, it's also a health, safety, and economic issue. So just in brief, and then what I want to do is provide a lot of color, more than green, on playgrounds. So in winter 22-23, the Select Board appropriated some ARPA funding to the Leonard Field study to identify what could be upgraded in the condition of the playground and surrounding field area. We received that back. Also, then in March 2023, we authorized this playground inspection report to look at all municipal and school playgrounds in Winchester. We received that report back shortly after and resolved many of the critical issues there, including closing structures across playgrounds and making some needed fixes, which you've probably seen both the closures and the resolutions. And then in May, we negotiated with Eversource to a $200,000 contribution that would go towards Leonard Field. So just to bring in from the playground report on Leonard Field, on the first page of the playground report that comes back, the playground should not be used. It needs attention immediately. The level 2 item has catastrophic results. This is a picture of Leonard Field about a week ago, so you can see the condition of the playground from its good angle. What you can also see in the dirt and the edging there, I think maybe a truck that was servicing something had gone across the field, which was that dark area. And what you don't see is the climbing wall that was taken down maybe 2 years ago. Further to the conditions on Leonard Playground, this photograph is from 2019 in the summertime when this climbing piece fell down, creating the gap that you saw at the end of the select board presentation with the highway sign on it. So also in the report, there's an entrapment risk on the bridge, which you see. It's slippery, it has excessive slope. As an adult with fairly sure footing, I never liked to climb on that, and certainly didn't like to see kids using it. The broken climber here, which has a road sign secured with zip ties, which has recently come down twice, resulting in calls to DPW, who have come out and fixed it that day. Notes on the safe zone for the swings and where that's put in relation to the basketball courts and the playground. For those who have been to Leonard, it says there's a bike run or an easy access walking pathway. There's like a dirt slope that people use that go up and down. You also see kids running up and down that. And then the benches and hardware in places is loose. McDonald Field, so again, from its good side, the playground may be used only when the safe zone for the overhead wheel is addressed and the overhead rings are removed. Here you can see where the overhead rings or the monkey bars have been removed. The overhead spinner was adjusted so that there was a safe enough distance underneath. You can see the tunnel. It says the tunnel needs replacement. It has 3 large burn holes, and when I was over there taking these pictures, the kids there pointed out to me when I said, is there anything else I should capture? Oh, there's another hole on top of it. And then the playship suggests reinstalling the unit. These are just a couple examples from the report to give you an idea of where these playgrounds stand in condition in relation to some other playgrounds you might see. So you don't have to take my word for it. What do kids and families have to say? And here's just some more pictures. This is McDonald Field. Lots of my friends have hit themselves playing on this playground. Real interest in bringing the monkey bars back. Are you going to add new monkey bars? Here's Leonard. You can tell that angle of the bridge, which is now boarded up on both sides so you can't access it. The angle of the bridge has gotten worse. Quotes, I would like it if they made the bridge safe. I'd like the bridge to get rebuilt. And I have to go to my brother's soccer practice instead of play on the playground. What's not quite so visible here is the location of the bridge in relation to the slide, in relation to that climbing structure. The only way to go down those slides is to first climb up them, which my kids love, but makes it very difficult unless you make a one route up and one route down on the side. You can see that a little better here, the access. Some parents said, I like the playground, it's so close to the soccer fields, but it's such a shame that it's so dangerous that kids can't safely play on it. They went on to note that the condition of the playground has deteriorated so much in the past year that it's essentially unusable. Another comment on that dirt slide, the dirt slide has got to go. Further on Leonard, it was a good playground, but it's falling apart. So not only can we as parents and grandparents who bring kids to the field, or people who walk through Leonard, or folks who are using the tennis courts or the basketball courts notice this, but the kids notice it, and they play on these playgrounds, and they understand that these playgrounds are not up to snuff of the playgrounds that we might drive them to. One child said, well, there aren't any playgrounds I can walk to from my house that have good swings or structures, and I don't like when we have to drive to the playground because it takes forever. And the final point on that is, when it takes forever to drive your kids to the playground and you go to another community, you're buying a coffee on the way somewhere else. You're picking up lunch afterwards or meeting friends and bringing in pizza to get together at the playground from somewhere else. you're getting ice cream at the end of the day in the summertime from another store, because we can't use the playgrounds here and access the services in Winchester to contribute to the economic development in our town. So I hope you'll join with the Select Board and the Capital Planning Committee to vote in favor of this article to improve the playground here, both at Leonard and at McDonald Field. Thank you.
Thank you to the Capital Planning Committee and the Select Board. Next, we will be hearing recommendations from the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This is the last slide from my presentation on capital, but it deals with Articles 6, 7, and 8. The Finance Committee believes these are pretty straightforward. FinCom recommends favorable action by town meeting on these articles, which total $2,270,000. We voted 12-0 in favor of these articles. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Finance Committee. At this time, do any town meeting members have any questions or comments regarding this article? If you have any questions or comments, if you can make it to the microphones, please do.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Greg Sawicki, Precinct 1. I come up today as a town meeting member, as a parent of 2 young children, as well as a pediatrician who recognizes the importance of safe outdoor spaces for our children in our community. I am fully supportive of this article, and I think we should have been fully supportive of this work years ago. It's appalling that it was 4 or 5 years from disrepair to us even considering this. So my question via town moderator to the select board is, what's the process moving forward now that if we appropriate this money, that's great and important and needs to be done, but what's the sort of ongoing supervision, oversight, reporting for playgrounds throughout the community and throughout the town, such that we don't have to be always playing catch up? Is there a plan in place to move forward, to have more regular inspections and decisions around funding repair and disrepair moving forward?
Thank you. It might be, is it town manager? All right, we're going to send it to the select board. Can you please provide us information on the process going forward on the playgrounds? I am also unsure if the school committee wants to weigh in on that as well, because they have playgrounds on their property too.
So in terms of monitoring conditions and following up on them, we have the newly funded VFA software, which allows us to input conditions of building and capital assets and monitor when they may be in need of replacement. There's also coordination between the schools with Pete Lawson and the DPW and the rec department to monitor conditions of the playground and down to levels of wood chips to be able to address and resolve issues as they come up. And can I through you to the school committee if there's additional?
Yes, to the school committee, do you have any additional information regarding the playgrounds? On behalf of the school committee, Dr. Hackett. Welcome, Mr. Superintendent. Oh, maybe you should have sat up front. Sorry about that.
Madam Moderator. I think it was well said by the Select Board. We work very closely with DPW. Even the school playgrounds are actually under the control of the town and DPW. So we've been working hand in hand on this assessment and really trying to figure out the priorities. So we appreciate the work that's been done so far. Thanks.
Thank you. Further on the question, Mike 2.
Hi, I'm Meredith Crowley, Precinct 1. I'm fully in favor of improving the playgrounds. I have a question in terms of the way Article 6 is written. In the license agreement, it indicates that $200,000 is for Leonard Field, but in this, it includes Leonard and McDonald Field. I wondered if this is written as it should be. And in addition of the feasibility or the study that was done for Leonard Field, it was a 1.6 estimate. And if the $200,000 from Eversource weren't there, then the contribution from the town is simply $250,000. I'd really like to see much more go towards Leonard Field, or at least refurbishment of the basketball and the tennis courts.
At this time, to the Select Board, can you please provide more information regarding the $200,000 from the fiscal year 2024 miscellaneous non-recurring revenue and how you determine the costs that you are requesting from town meeting at this time for McDonald and Leonard Field?
So based on the analysis and the engineering that we had done for Leonard Field, we have an estimate not just for the playground but also for other areas of the field, including basketball, tennis courts, and the bathhouse. So the dollar amount estimated for Leonard Field includes the demolition of the area. It includes rerouting the path in order to make additional space for a playground structure, and then building the new playground structure. That's sort of an estimate around $450,000. From the report that was done, there's about a $200,000 cost of resurfacing the tennis courts. We received an earmark from the state of $200,000, so that amount will be going towards the tennis court resurfacing at Leonard. So that's approximately how we got to the different values there with that estimate, and then understanding that McDonald may be similar, but there hasn't been a study done there around the space and other materials.
May I have a follow-up question?
Give me one moment, because you did have a question that still has not been answered, and I want to go to Town Council. Town Council has reviewed the motion under Article 6. Can you please confirm that as it's written, that it aligns with what the Select Board and the Capital Planning Committee has presented? Mr. Tallerman, our Town Council.
Good evening. As written, the motion is fine. It is a combined appropriation for both items. There's not a requirement that they be separated and itemized in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you.
The sources are all legitimate.
Thank you very much. Your follow-up question?
What will the dollar amount spent on the playground structure? I think it was for Leonard Field about $325,000. How much of the $450 will be for the play structure?
On behalf of the Select Board.
The estimate that was given for playground structure improvements was about $325,000, and that's not including what sort of site preparation and the walkways and movement of the walkways there.
So the playground structure will receive that full amount? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further on the question, if Ms. Prokop, you would like to join, you may join the queue.
Madam Moderator, Josh Bears, Precinct 7. In my question, I'm fully in support of this. With a fourth grader who loves Lincoln Field, I'm curious as to, maybe it's just a procedural issue, why Lincoln renovation isn't included in this article.
And I believe that needs to go to Capital Planning Committee. Can you please provide information about the status of the Lincoln's playground?
Yes, the Lincoln Playground has not brought forward because it hasn't been totally planned. We have limited funds, and I would anticipate town staff would be bringing that forward possibly in the next construction cycle, and we have, and there is mention, motion 11 also mentioned some improvement to school playgrounds.
Thank you. Further on the question?
Roger Wilson, Precinct 1. Madam Moderator, through you to the proponents. Well, I have I took an expert out there today, and he stuck his hand behind the rubber coating to the toddler swing and the metal frame, and he said, it's broken, Grandpa. And he's right. I'm 100% in support of this, but I do have a question. Number one is how long is a playground supposed to last, and do we in fact have a schedule of playgrounds for the entire inventory of playgrounds that we have? Number two, do we have a policy about materials, because those the edging around that playground at Leonard was broken apart, you know, for years. It wasn't appropriate material to begin with. And we shouldn't be building playgrounds with materials that are so inappropriate for like the edging. But also, do we have a policy on maintenance? Because I've been in this town for 37 years, and the playgrounds have constantly been broken and left in bad repair for years. And that sign that was shown in Leonard at the Leonard playground, that sign was in place for years. If a playground breaks, it should be repaired until the point where the decision is made to replace it. You shouldn't just stick a barricade up and say, sorry, kids. And finally, in terms of policy, do we have a policy about standardization of playgrounds? Because having multiple different vendors and so forth makes it very hard to maintain an inventory of playgrounds.
I'm going to turn the questions over to the Select Board, but I welcome if they'd like to turn it over to Capital or Mr. Lawson from the Department of Public Works. The questions before you are, do we have a policy on the materials, maintenance? Is there standardization on what we are going to do with these? And then also, do we have an inventory of the status of all the playgrounds at this time?
Okay.
Would you like me to start with one?
I think so. I think I got it.
Okay.
I'm going to phone a friend in a second, but I did want to just mention that in Article 5, Motion 11, that includes playground equipment and surfaces at the Lincoln School and the VO School. And I'm going to call on Pete Lawson to come down. He has led this investigation, and he can answer certainly all these questions. They're excellent questions. They've been asked at our table in the spring, and I'm certainly have Pete. Come on down, Pete. Don't be bashful.
Mr. Lawson of the Department of Public Works, welcome.
Good evening, everybody. It became very clear that it was pretty disjointed on how we took care of all of our playgrounds. There were issues going on with the school ones, and that tagged into what was going on in the public parks. So I really took it on myself to become the lead on it. What we've done through the select boards, putting up for the inspections we had. From that, we put together a spreadsheet of what's existing, what are existing problems, pulled together the task force of the DPW, the school operations manager, the recreation department, and likewise the highway. And we've made a team. Annually, we're going to do inspections of them. We're going to keep part of that as a part of the capital plan going forward. going to incorporate it into our updated VFA software that gives us an overall of the condition of our assets. And just moving forward, we're going to take it on directly from my office, ask for any maintenance money, or work through the processes to keep them up. But I'm pulling it all in underneath me.
Thank you.
I can't say we have any policy yet on the materials that are going to be used. I know that there is a lot of thought on different rubbers or materials for the playscape itself. As far as being able to go under one vendor, you know, there are the bid laws, so we try to do that. There's a couple of major players out there that we use, so they all do good equipment, and there's only a few of the big members, so we will if we can.
Thank you very much. If it's acceptable, I would like whoever has a copy of the playground reports that has been referenced to be provided to the town clerk, and town meeting members will enter that onto our website so that you will have that study if you would like to review it. Further on the question, Ms. Pearl Coffin of Precinct 2.
Hello, my name is Pearl Coffin. I'm in 4th grade at Morocco Elementary School. I am here to speak in support of Article 6. Like many kids at Morocco, I go to the playground at Leonard Field a lot. Well, we like playing there. We all think the playground is old, broken, and really not safe. Parts of the play structure are boarded up, and you can't get from one side to the other. There are nails sticking out, the paint is peeling off some of the poles, the bouncy bridge is rusted, and the chains are swinging. The chains on the swings pinch your hands when you try to hold on. The rock climbing wall was shut down, and the wood chips have all washed away. There's an old concrete building with graffiti on it. Lots of kids play at Leonard every day. Many of them are younger than me, including my brother, who is 6 years old. We love Leonard Field, and it would be great for us all to have a safe place to play. Please vote for Article 6. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coffin, for sharing your voice with town meeting. Further on the question?
Hi, thank you. Pamela Court, Precinct 5. I am in support of this warrant article. I hope moving forward we're able to include in those plans the use of CPA funds, and hopefully that will pass for ongoing maintenance of these outdoor play spaces. My question through the moderator to, at the moderator's discretion, who would be the best person to answer this, what kind of consideration was there done in terms of both accessibility and inclusivity? And they're two different things, because something can be accessible but not necessarily inclusive. And I just want to make sure that we're being thoughtful in the design moving forward of our play structures and play areas in this town so that every single child of every single ability can use them.
To the select board, can you please provide information to town meeting on the accessibility of the designs that are coming in for these two playgrounds?
So in terms of the design for the playground, we haven't done the actual design of what will be included in the playground, just the sort of concept of how the playground will be replaced in the space and the walkways. So those things will be considered as we look towards what's important to the users of the playground, including accessibility for users of that playground, and how not just when you're accessing the playground how to get to it, but also how to be able to make it accessible for anyone to play on the structures as well. So those will be forthcoming in the design.
Thank you very much.
May I ask a follow-up question?
Yep.
Will there be some sort of review that the public has access to so that the people doing the planning can get feedback so that we don't look back and say, gee, we wish we had done that?
To the select board, will there be a public review session on the design of these playgrounds?
Yeah, as we go into the design of these playgrounds, and likely also in consideration with Article 5, there'll be design and feedback and opportunity for the public to be involved.
And also to confirm, the Disability Access Commission will be part of that process. Thank you. Further on the question? And after that, we'll be taking the vote, town meeting.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Tim Matthews, Precinct 1. I just wanted to, one brief comment. As someone whose son has been using this playground for many years, I think it's important for us to really note that there's an equity issue here. I don't think it's lost on anyone that both of these playgrounds are in the Lynch and Morocco areas. And I know that we've also been the ones who've been waiting for a long time to get newly reconstructed schools. So, when it comes to actually considering what we do across the town in an equitable way across all 8 precincts, I think it's important to just remember that, having different voices from each of those precincts at the tables where decisions are being made is important. And with that, Madam Moderator, I'd be happy to move the question.
Thank you. Well, I already said we're going to call it, so I'm going to find that out of order. So, I believe town meeting is ready for the question. At this time, just so town meeting knows, I had some public reach out and ask that if we do not have unanimous votes on our capital committee-sponsored articles, that we use V-Voter so all of our votes could be registered. With that, I'll do a voice vote on this. If it is not unanimous, please do not choose to go with unanimous. Go with what you want, but I just need to do that first, and then if not, I will go to V-Voter. A 2/3 vote is required. We are voting on Article 6, which is to appropriate money improvements for Leonard and McDonald Fields for $930,000. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion passes. Moving on to Article 5. Article 5, I'm going to split up into 3 parts for the presentation, so we don't have 20 presentations. We will start doing it. I split it into 3 parts based on the Building Stabilization Fund will be the first section, then the Capital Stabilization Fund, and the third part will be water and sewer retained earnings. For town meetings purposes, the presentation at first will cover 1 through 7, and the recommendations from the boards and committees will be coming in for those articles as well. And then I will call each motion individually, and we will take questions and comments on each motion. Article 5 is sponsored by the Capital Planning Committee. Articles 1 through 7 is what we will start with, and those require a 2/3 vote. On behalf, Mr. Roger McPeak, Vice Chair of the Capital, I will one moment, thank you. On behalf of the Capital Planning Committee.
As you heard this evening, we're going to be asking you to do some things that we don't normally ask you to do. We don't have all the funds in our back pocket right now to do all of these things, particularly the things that you're going to see the words engineering associated with. But we've been working with the select board a long time, a lot, I should say, so much so that we bring them bad news and we ask them to do hard things. It wouldn't surprise me if they crossed the street when they saw me coming. But it's been a really good experience. They've stepped up. They've committed to finding a funding plan for the engineering work, and these are projects that we are going to have to do. We have to do them. They're building envelopes, they're roofs, they're windows, they're the hard stuff that keeps the rain from dropping on our kids' heads and out of the libraries and things like that. And the longer we delay these things, we run two risks. The first is the prices are going to go up, guaranteed. So we want to do the engineering work now so that when we've got the engineering work complete and they've gone through their process of coming up with a funding scheme, we can move on to construction quickly. Also, delay. If we delay these things and something breaks, our costs are going to go through the roof. It's far more expensive to fix something that is broken than to be proactive about it and fix it before it goes down. That said, we have, thank you, Madam Moderator. Excuse me. As the moderator has indicated, we have 20 motions this evening. It's going to be speed dating on capital items. So the first area is the Building Stabilization Fund. The first three motions that we're dealing with here tonight are the result of that roof study that you heard about. And it revealed some bad news and a little bit of good news. The first motion, motion 1, is for town hall and library engineering to repair those roofs. We're eventually going to need to completely repair the library, renew the library roof. We need immediate repairs that the heavy rains over the summer indicated where we were getting water infiltrating the building in various places. So this is for immediate repairs to the library roof and engineering work to do phased repair of the town hall roof and total replacement of the library roof. Number 2, Ambrose, that's the good news that came out of this, with some moderate repairs in the short term. We're hoping that we can get 5+ years of life out of that and move on after that to a full repair, to a full replacement. McCall, if you've ever taken a look at the top of McCall roof through Google Maps or something like that, you see that it's just this incredibly complex assembly of different styles of roofs. We need to replace a significant amount of that roof, and we need to be doing that now. That's the one that was probably in the number 1 position of how we move forward. DPW storage garage, motion 4. We initially funded some engineering work. As you may recall, when we took down the wall, we lost a lot of our covered storage for the DPW complex. We funded some initial work on that. We ran into some problems with floodplain issues. We now need some more money to deal with those floodplain issues and move into permitting and start doing some engineering on that. Number 5 is library and town hall window repair or replacement. The library windows do a great job of letting in light, and they do a great job of letting in rain and snow and everything else right now. So they're in really bad shape. The thing that keeps us okay is that we have interior storms on those windows. The town hall windows are largely inoperative, and in a building that has no ventilation, that's not a good thing. The Lincoln chiller, motion 6. We've done some initial work on that. Determined that we are going to need to replace it. We were presented with 4 different options on how to do that involving the location, and it has implications on the footprint that we take up either on the ground or up on the roof. Schools and DPW are working out which of the 4 options that we've been given that is going to work for them, and then we will engineer that solution and create a set of bid documents for that. That will be coming in as a future construction project. Town Hall bell tower structural review. Some of you may be aware that we had a brick fall out of the town hall a while ago, town hall bell tower. And there's a 2-word technical term for when that happens, and I think it's uh-oh. So we're going to get engineers up inside there. We need to have a good look of what's going on, make sure that this was not a structural indications of larger structural problems, and if it is, we need to start taking action on that right now.
Thank you very much. At this time, may we have a recommendation of the Select Board?
So the Select Board unanimously voted favorable action on motions 1 through 7 of Article 5, and I'll remind you all of the pictures that I presented at in my slideshow in Article 1. A lot of these projects are depicted in those pictures, and we need to do this now to have this engineering work done so that we can do our job and figure out funding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The moderator would just like everyone to know that Capital Planning Committee is supported by the town manager and their staff, and that because Capital is bringing it forward, they also are in favor of these articles. Recommendation from the Finance Committee on motions 1 through 7, please.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you.
I will provide an overview of Finance Committee's recommendations on capital articles 5 through 8, followed by a detailed presentation on all 20 of the motions in Article 5, which will take me 5 minutes, and I will not stand up again.
Wait, can you just start with Article 5, please? Article 5 is the only one before us.
Finance Committee is in unanimous support of spending 70% of the funds requested in Article 5 and 100% of the funds requested in Articles 6, 7, and 8. Each case for which we recommend favorable action fits in one of two categories. The full cost, the first category is the full cost is known and there is an identified available source of funds. The second category is there's an immediate clear need to move forward now with identified available funds. This slide summarizes the sources of the $4,741,000 FinCom recommends town meeting approve at this time under these 4 articles. FinCom recommends unanimously favorable actions on these 11 of the 20 motions listed in Article 5. Again, as I said, representing 70% of the dollar value of all the motions requested in Article 5. $2.471 million is recommended for approval. This slide details these 11 motions, listing the amount and the funding source. Finance Committee recommends by a vote of 11 to 1 that the other 9 motions in Article 5, 30% of Article 5 request, be deferred until January 15th, 2024, when the town manager submits her 5-year capital improvement program, at which time sources and uses of funds will be committed by the Select Board and Capital Planning Committee, along with construction and O&M estimates and the timing of projects. Finance Committee is supportive of increased funding on capital and looks forward to making a comprehensive recommendation that includes all 9 of these projects at Springtown meeting. This slide details the 9 motions that FinCom recommends be deferred with the amount and proposed funding source. These are all engineering studies. This slide shows new information received from the town manager on October 30th with estimates of construction costs likely to follow these engineering studies. The construction costs are highlighted in yellow toward the right. The estimates of construction costs are 11 times the cost of engineering on average. Finance Committee's concern is that before town meeting commits to $1.4 million in engineering studies, there should be a commitment from the Select Board, the town manager, and Capital Planning Committee as to how the resulting $15.6 million in construction will be funded. Capital Planning expressed the same concern in a letter to the Select Board on October 2nd, 2023. This slide makes the same point in a different way, showing the multiple of engineering to construction costs for each of these motions. Funds spent on these engineering studies will lead to large expenditures on construction, costs for which there is no funding plan or commitment in place in succeeding fiscal years. No member of Finance Committee is against any of these projects. FinCom shouldn't and will not substitute its project selection preferences for the Select Board, the town manager, or capital planning. The town manager's October 30th capital presentation to Select Board is a solid first step toward the development of the 5-year capital improvement plan required by the town charter. FinCom is supportive of these efforts. This slide places the projects identified by the town manager into a draft 5-year cash flow of sources and uses of funds. Further improvements are necessary. FinCom is fully committed to helping the town manager, Select Board, and Capital Planning improve and present a funded 5-year capital improvement plan for favorable action at Springtown meeting. This is the same excerpt from the charter that I showed you earlier tonight. FinCom's October 24th public meeting with Chris Gordon on capital programs basics is an excellent introduction to best practices in capital programming for the town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will believe there's no more recommendations coming in from any boards or committees on Article 5, motion 1 through 7. Therefore, I will read motion 1, and then we'll go into questions and comments on that one from town meeting. It is moved and seconded that the town vote to appropriate $865,000 for the Building Stabilization Fund established under Chapter 69 of the Acts of 2002 for town hall and library roof engineering and library roof immediate repairs, including construction and engineering and all other costs incidental and related thereto. Any questions or comments by town meeting on motion number 1? Seeing no one rise, I will do a voice vote. We do require 2/3 vote on these motions. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Moving on to motion number 2. It is moved and seconded that the town vote to appropriate $80,000 from the Building Stabilization Fund established under Chapter 69 of the Acts of 2002 for Ambrose School roof engineering and all other costs incidental and related thereto. Any questions or comments from town meeting? Seeing no one rise, I believe you're ready. Yes?
Thank you, Madam Moderator, town meeting. I just would like, before we vote on any of the engineering studies, to be able to hear from the Select Board one more time in response to the presentation by Finance Committee. I did watch the October 24th meeting by Finance Committee. I thought it was excellent. I recommend you watch it. It was very instructive on how capital planning processes should work. And I fully respect that for years we've struggled with long-term planning for capital projects. And I don't envy the task of any of these boards or committees in working on this. I watched also the October 30th Select Board meeting when they were working with capital planning on how do we do this? How do you do a plan when you don't know what things are going to cost? And how do you identify how much you might need in an override until you know if you've done the engineering study? So I, out of respect for these boards and the amount of time they put into it, I would like to hear from the Select Board one more time in the response to what it was that FinCom just told us. And I do respect the work of FinCom too.
To the chair of the Select Board, can you please respond to some of the statements made about the Select Board's commitment to the projects if the engineering is passed, along with the process that you plan to take or you're recommending town meeting take at this time?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Thank you, Madam Moderator. To be quite frank, I'm still trying to process Dr. Miller's presentation and all his graphs. But I will reiterate the point that town staff, the town manager's office, capital planning, and FinCom are all aligned on what we need to do in the next several weeks and months ahead. And that this is the first step. We need this engineering money, which you all voted on 1 through 7 just now. Thank you. And we need all
Just
these.
one.
Just one. Excuse me, on 1.
19 more to go.
19 more to go, and it's what, 9 o'clock, 9:15, so I'll be brief. I appreciate step 1, voting number 1. I'd ask you to do the same for all the other ones. I think it was well articulated by Ms. Savage of what we're trying to do. I think you've heard it several times tonight. You hear a common theme. We need this research in order to finalize and fine-tune a financial plan. Thank you.
Can you please provide town meeting what the options are for funding sources that the Select Board have in their authority?
We have in our authority, we can...
Well, actions you can take in your authority.
Okay. We can seek free cash appropriations from this body. We have the Capital Stabilization Fund, the Building Stabilization Fund, and we have a debt exclusion override. And we have limited ARPA money left to do maybe 1 or 2 of these projects. So other than that, those are the short-term funding mechanisms in order to get this done. And I think all of that will be incorporated into a strategy. And we just need to see how the numbers come out.
Thank you. Further on the question? Try it now. Here, try it now. Try it now. One more time. Yeah, come on down, it's dead. Sorry about that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Moderator, Town Meeting. Jennifer Hafley, Precinct 7. Directed to whoever would be the person to answer the question. 2 questions. One, how long is an engineering study usually valid for? If we were to do the engineering studies now, how long are the results from that good? And secondly, I may just be misunderstanding the whole financial process here, very good chance, but if the cost of those studies is deferred until January 2024, is that not still the same fiscal year budget as if we were to approve it tonight? Thank you.
Thank you. To the town manager, could you please provide information on the longevity of the engineering studies if they are to be done, and then also the time frame of the process?
Thank you, Madam Moderator, town meeting members. So an engineering study varies depending on the project that you're doing a study for. So on a roof, it has a fairly long shelf life. Other projects may have if you're trying to decide on a vehicle that you want to purchase, right, that has a much shorter shelf life. The engineering studies that we're talking about tonight have fairly long shelf lives. So I don't see that there's any issue with us approving and appropriating funds this evening and then working over the next year or so to be able to fund those projects. With respect to your second question, so if we were to delay this conversation until Springtown meeting, that means that when our capital planning cycle starts again in June and July of 2024, we won't have those engineering estimates back to help us plan what those next requests should be for either further engineering or for construction. So if we are able to get those funds this evening, we will start immediately at the close of town meeting to start working on those engineering studies so that we have those estimates ready as we head into next spring and certainly by the next capital planning cycle, so that when we come back to the town meeting again in the fall with requests, we will have real numbers that we're able to use to put towards those requests. So the delay from fall to spring of 2024 completely delays our capital process in terms of how we're able to estimate costs for the next phase of requests that come forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see that down. All right, come on up.
Madam Moderator, for you to the chair of the select board, can we confirm that it is their intent to bring forward what they learned at the spring town meeting before action is taken on any kind of override?
To the select board, can you please provide, I'm going to repeat it also so that it gets picked up by WinCam, because I have a feeling that those at home did not hear that question. Can you please provide town meeting information on if you will be willing to take the information from that engineering study and report it back to town meeting with information and direction?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Yes, of course, we'll report it back to town meeting. And in terms of action, we're going to act as we're ready and when we're ready to act. And if that's Springtown meeting, great. If it's before Springtown meeting, great. We'll have to just see how it plays out. But we're going to act as quickly as we can because time is of the essence.
You're always welcome to send an email to all of town meeting through the town clerk. All right, I see that town meeting is ready. Okay. All right. If you know a motion's coming up and you want to speak, please get on the sidelines. Go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Moderator. Steve Boksansky, Precinct 4, through you to the members. My question is, the funds tonight that we're looking at are being pulled from the Building Stabilization Fund. If we defer, if we put this off into the spring, do we anticipate we'll be using funds from the Building Stabilization Fund, or will they be new funds required?
It has to go through a process. So Capital Planning Committee, if this does not pass this evening, where do you anticipate, if this comes back, the funding source would come from? Can you predict the future?
Yeah, it's going to pass. The funds are coming from the Building Stabilization Fund. If the funding is not spent today, it stays in the Building of Stabilization Fund and is available for the Capital Committee to bring forward in the future to town meeting. We can either use it this year or just roll it forward.
Thank you.
Further on the question, and then I'm going to call it.
Madam Moderator, Dorothy Simbali, Precinct 6, through you to the town meeting, or no, actually to, I'm not sure who comes up with the cost, to whoever can answer the question, I guess. How was the cost estimate on these engineering studies derived? Like, is there a competitive, I mean, there's not a competitive bidding process. How do they get the best value in terms of getting these engineering studies?
To the Capital Planning Committee, can you please provide information regarding how you get the values of the engineering studies?
Capital Stabilization, the Capital Committee relies on town staff that has done this for years. We feel they're pretty close. It's somewhere between 5 and 20% of the actual project. But these are numbers we feel confident that we can get a good report to present with good numbers.
Thank you. All right, it has been moved and seconded. We're going to vote to appropriate $80,000 from the Building Stabilization Fund for the Ambrose School roof engineering and all incidentals related thereto. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? No. All right, get your clickers out. It's time. Give us a moment while we get V-Voter ready for you, please. Town meeting members, when the light turns green, you'll use your clicker to register your vote. Vote yes, which is the green button, means you are in favor of motion 2 and in favor of appropriating $80,000 from the Building Stabilization Fund for the Ambrose roof engineering. If you vote no, it means you are not in favor, which would be the red button. You have 30 seconds to cast your votes. You're also welcome to abstain, which is the yellow button. There are 114 in the affirmative, 38 in the negative, requiring 102 for the adoption. The affirmative has it, and the motion is adopted. Moving on to motion number 3, it is moved and seconded that the town vote to appropriate $240,000 from the Building Stabilization Fund established under Chapter 69 of the Acts of the 2002 for McCall School roof engineering and all other costs incidental and related thereto. Any questions or comments?
Hi, thank you, Pamela Court, P5. My question through the moderator to the EFPBC or Capital, I'm not sure who would be better able to answer this question. We've done an awful lot of work on McCall and construction, and I'm wondering if we have any information already existing on the state of the roof, given the amount of engineering work and construction that's already happened on that building.
To a representative of the EFPBC, are you able to provide more information regarding the status of the McCall School roof that we may have obtained through previous projects?
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and thank you, Ms. Court, for the question. May I just seek a clarification? Is the question what information the EFPBC has on the roofs that are subject to the motion or on the roofs over just the entire school. Not sure where Pam went. The entire building is Ms.
It's the
Court's
entire
question.
building, yep.
Thank you. So, as it was introduced earlier, McCall is just a collection of buildings going back to the original in 1932. We did an E-wing addition in 2009. Decade before was the library extension and so forth. And then, E-wing was 2009. The E-wing addition, I think, was just 4 or 5 years ago. All of those roofs on the more sort of contemporary additions, if you will, are actually in really good shape. The EFPBC, as a committee, doesn't have detailed information on the scope of the roof that's subject to the motion. However, the study was very thorough. Where this started was actually a motion. I'm going to switch hats. There was a motion on the part of the school committee seeking this initial schematic review. We came to you asking to look at McCall and Ambrose, and on management's advice, we included Town Hall and the library into that. That was actually one motion that you all funded. The contractor brought in drones, created detailed video footage, got up on ladders. The report's pretty thick, pretty detailed, lots of good photographs. And they've actually accounted, Ms. Court, for what conditions certain roofs at McCall are in relative to others. We have flat roofs, we have membrane roofs, we have pitched roofs, we have roofs with defunct chimneys that go through them. And they've made some really good recommendations about the urgency associated with a lot of that. So this is not about re-roofing all of McCall.
Thank you very much. Seeing no one else rise, I believe we are ready for the question. We are taking a vote on motion number 3, which is to appropriate $240,000 from the Building Stabilization Fund for the McCall School roof. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, get your clickers out. V-voter, could you get motion number 3 ready for a vote? Two-thirds vote is required. A vote yes means that you would like to appropriate $240,000 towards the McCall School roof. A vote no means that you would not like to. There are 146 having voted. There are 160 in the affirmative, no in the negative. Requires 98 in the affirmative to pass. The affirmative has it, and the motion is adopted. Moving on to motion number 4, it is moved and seconded that the town vote to appropriate $100,000 from the Building Stabilization Fund established under Chapter 69 of the Acts of 2002 for the Department of Public Works, also known as the DPW, storage garage, units, engineering, and all other costs incidental and related thereto. Any questions or comments from town meeting? Seeing no one rise, I believe you're ready for the vote. At this time, I am going to use V-voter for motion number 4. When the light turns on, please make your selection. A vote in the affirmative means that you would like to appropriate $100,000 for the DPW storage garage units engineering. There are 138 having voted, 101 in the affirmative, 37 in the negative, 92 required. The motion The affirmative has it, and the motion is adopted. Moving on to motion number 5, it is moved and second that the town vote to appropriate $150,000 from the Building Stabilization Fund established under Chapter 69 of the Acts of 2002 for library window replacement engineering and town hall window engineering and all other costs incidental and related thereto. Any questions or comments? Seeing no one rise, we will get to V-voter on motion 5. This is to appropriate $150,000 from the Building Stabilization Fund for the library window replacement engineering and town hall window engineering. $150 voted. 100 required for adoption. There are 122 in the affirmative, 28 in the negative. The affirmative has it, and the motion is adopted. Going forward, if we use V-voter for these next few motions, we will be cutting it down to 20 seconds. Motion 6 is moved and second that the town vote to appropriate $150,000 from the Building Stabilization Fund established under Chapter 69 of the Acts of 2002 for the Lincoln School chiller engineering and all other costs incidental and related thereto. Any questions or comments? Seeing no one rise, I believe we're ready for the vote. The vote in the affirmative means that you would like to appropriate $150,000 from the Building Stabilization Fund towards the Lincoln School chiller engineering. Once the light goes on, we're going to reduce the time to 20 seconds. Go. There are 148 members voting, with 110 in the affirmative, 38 in the negative, 99 required for the adoption. The affirmative has it, and the motion is adopted. Moving on to motion 7, it is moved and seconded that the town vote to appropriate $50,000 from the Building Stabilization Fund established under Chapter 69 of the Acts of 2002 for the Town Hall Bell Tower structural review and all other costs incidental and related thereto. Any questions or comments? Seeing no one rise, we will move to vote for motion 7. A vote in the affirmative will appropriate $50,000 towards the Town Hall Bell Tower structure review. 20 seconds. $152 voted, 102 for adoption, 122 in the affirmative, 30 in the negative. The affirmative has it, and the motion passes. Town meeting members, we are reaching a later hour than I would have liked to go to. However, we do have guests, including high schoolers who have been brave and sat through all of this to be able to give you their voice. So in response, if it's okay with the meeting, I would like to move forward with motion 8, the presentation from Capital Planning on the motions regarding the Capital Stabilization Fund take that specific motion that they're here to speak about, and then we can return to the other motions when we come back on Thursday. So on behalf of the Capital Planning Committee, we will be hearing on Articles 8 through 18. If we need a refresher again, please let me know. I can have them do a repetition of what they're going to tell you right now. Actually, are you able to just talk about the tennis courts? Let's just take the tennis courts. We'll take that one now. Let that one, we'll debate that, make a vote, and then we'll come back to the rest of the motions. The Packer Ellis Tennis Courts, engineering is motion 16. We've had a handful of residents who have been sitting through all of town meeting waiting to speak, so I'd like to let them go ahead. Thank you for your flexibility.
I'm shocked. I didn't think there'd be that much interest in the tennis courts. It's been one of the most interesting times. This has been on our radar for a little bit of time here. One of the things that we're proposing is $75,000, and this is really the start of the journey. This is for us to be able to take a comprehensive look at what's going on in the Packer Ellis courts. We know that we have problems with the retaining wall, and it's deteriorating. And we know that we have problems with drainage. Last summer revealed that quite clearly to us. We've been told that the courts themselves need some repairs and possibly some replacement. So this starts us on a journey of doing an analysis of what's going on inside that facility. It will inform us on what we have to do, what we should do, and what we'd like to do, and hope that you'll support it at $75,000.
Thank you very much. We've heard the recommendation from the Select Board, from FinCom, and on this particular article, we also have a recommendation coming in from the Historical Commission. On behalf of the Historical Commission, Chair Jack Lemenager.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The Historical Commission met last week at our usual meeting, and we met with the members of the Winchester Tennis Association about this. The Packer Ellis tennis courts are an integral part of this community. Thousands of people use them, and I trust the tennis team will be speaking about that after me. But they are genuinely historic. They're more than 100 years old. They've gotten a lot of use, and it was mentioned earlier, they are unique in the clay surface. I believe there's 17 courts. It's pretty remarkable. In light of that and acknowledgement of that, the Historical Commission voted unanimously in support of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, town meeting members, if you have any questions or comments, please rise. I am going to, as they are lined up, recognize our community members who would like to speak to this article. First is Chris Goodyear.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for this opportunity to speak to you on behalf of the Winchester Tennis Association. My name is Chris Goodyear, and I am an executive board member for the Tennis Association, and I have been actively involved as a WTA member since 1987. Tonight, we ask the town meeting members to please vote in favor of Capital Planning Article 5, Motion 16, the motion to support the engineering design study for the much-needed improvements of Packer Ellis Tennis Courts, the complex located at Palmer Street next to Wedge Pond. According to the town archives, as the Historical Commission just mentioned, there has been tennis played near that site since beginning in 1892, and in 1917, the town bought the land for the development of the tennis courts, and they began construction on the original 4 courts in 1922. Those courts have expanded over the years to include 15 courts. The site is now known as Packer Tennis Ellis Courts, and it's one of the largest public tennis clay court facilities in New England. They're managed by and maintained by the Winchester Tennis Recreation Department, and this year there were over 500 tennis members and 1,000 participants in their lessons and clinics that were offered at the courts. In addition to the rec department, the Packer Ellis courts are home to anyone who wants to play, first come, first served basis. The Winchester High School boys and girls tennis teams, the adult suburban and Middlesex Winchester adult teams, and the Winchester Tennis Association, which has been dedicated to promoting tennis and supporting tennis in the community since its inception in 1929, with organized social play, tournaments, and donations of time and equipment to support the court. Tennis is a lifelong sport, family sport, providing intergenerational and social interactions, and mostly important, it contributes to for its participants an overall health benefit. Unfortunately, due to lack of capital improvements over decades, the Packer Ellis courts infrastructure has significantly deteriorated to the point of complete breakdown, and many areas are failing and unsafe. We need help from the entire Winchester community to ensure that Packer Ellis continues as a vital place for our community now and into the future. Voting in favor of Article 5, Motion 16 will be the first step in addressing the areas in need of attention and upgrade. We feel confident that after the study is completed, that we can support the town in finding the funds necessary to make the needed repairs through state grants and community preservation, sponsorships, grants from community philanthropic organizations, the United States Tennis Association Facility Grants Program, and also private donations. Please vote yes on Article 5, Motion 16, and thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Further on the question, we have representatives of the men and women's tennis team, Captain Nora Dunn.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and to the town meeting officers and committee members for allowing me to speak with you today. I have written right here to pardon my appearance because I had just come directly from tennis, but that was about 3.5 hours ago. My name is Nora Dunn. I'm a senior at Winchester High School and one of the captains of the girls' varsity high school tennis team. I speak for both tennis teams and the youth tennis programs in Winchester when I ask the committee to please both support the engineering study phase and also any subsequent repair phases of the Packer Ellis tennis courts. These courts are central to the youth of Winchester, and frankly, I can't imagine what my life would be like today had these courts not been available to me. From when I first started playing in the Winchester Recreation Summer Tennis Clinics when I was 5 years old, and every summer since then, it's also where I held one of my first summer jobs as a coach at for those very same children's clinics. It's where I first found my love for the sport. And now the Packer Ellis tennis courts serve as the home course for both the state championship winning high school tennis teams. These courts are an enormous part of the legacy of tennis in Winchester and should continue to be so for the next generation of Winchester kids. Again, I ask you to fully support the funding for the engineering study as well as the subsequent funding needed for those repairs. I would not be the same person I am today without the Packer Ellis tennis courts, and I want the other kids to have the same opportunity as me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further on the question, we have Robin Ellis.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. My name is Robin Ellis. I'll make this quick. I grew up in Winchester, as did my father, who had 5 brothers, one of whom was my dear Uncle Donnie Ellis. As you know, the tennis courts in town were renamed the Packer Ellis courts to honor Donnie for the decades of his time and devotion towards maintaining and improving the court's infrastructure and landscape. He also was a damn good tennis player. My family and I would love to see the town approve the study that would hopefully lead to the improvements desperately needed to restore the tennis facility gem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all the community members who shared their voice with us. Further on the question?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Alan Field, Precinct 2. I just need clarification. I've heard in what I've read and what I've heard that this is a public facility, and it was just mentioned that anyone can come and play. But I've also understand that actually it's a membership facility, and in fact, there's if I wanted to go play, I'd have to pay $250 for a membership fee to play it. Is that correct, or which is the correct image?
I believe it goes to the Recreation Department. Could you please provide town meeting direction on how the Packer Ellis tennis courts are managed at this time and how you can get access to use them? It's a journey.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Pacarellis courts are managed by the Recreation Department, and there are fees to play there. We have day passes, we have a sliding scale for seniors, and there is a membership that allows you unlimited play. So there's different prices for in-town residents and out-of-town residents for all of those options, and as well as youth passes.
Is it true that the fee, the basic adult fee, is $250?
Can you please provide town meeting the cost of the fees to participate?
Yeah, for adult resident, non-senior is $250. Seniors are $210.
And what is it, the day pass cost?
Day passes range from $12 a day for residents, $17 for non-residents.
But you have to be a member to use the day pass, correct?
No, anyone can register for a day pass.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Further on the question?
Hi,
and
thank
just-
you.
and-
Go ahead.
Oh, just a clarification that the funds are used for maintenance of the courts.
Thank you. Pamela Court, Precinct 5. Through the moderator, Nick, you may want to answer this question. I'm not sure, so I don't want you to have to come back down. I have a question about the scope of the engineering study. I understand the courts are all clay now, so I have a question. Can you confirm that the high school tournaments can't be held on those courts because they're all clay? And if that's the case, is there any consideration about perhaps changing up the usage a little bit so that some of the courts remain clay, some of them might be a hard surface, and whether or not that would impact the maintenance and cut down on the maintenance costs going into the future? Thank you.
To the Rec Department, can you please provide direction on the scope of the engineering for the project and if there is consideration into changing parts of the courts away from clay so that they can be used for high school competition?
So you are correct in that the high school tournament cannot go beyond a certain level utilizing clay courts. They have to be on hard courts. In terms of the scope, at this time, we're looking at continue to keep them clay courts, but that when we do these engineering and design studies, they can give you different outcomes, and there can be alternates that we can look at. So it's not something that we are currently looking at to change those courts. It is in an area where you have to a flood zone as well. So I'm not sure if we would be interested in going into hard courts at Pacarellis. There is a field study design that has hard courts being put in towards the Morocco area. And that is something that was in the field master plan that was put out in 2019. So there is something out there for 5 hard courts in town on a master design for the fields.
Can you provide, because I know it's going to come up if I don't ask it, can you please provide town meeting the process for town feedback in the engineering process?
Similar to what we talked about with the playgrounds, there will be some opportunity for feedback with the engineering and design.
Thank you. Further on the question?
Roger Wilson, Precinct 1. My question is also to the Rec Department. If we could have the total revenue to the town derived from these courts.
To the Rec Department, do you know the total amount of revenue received from these courts?
So on a typical season, it's split between the fiscal year, which we start in May, and it goes all the way to November. So a typical season, the revenue brought in between day passes, memberships, rentals, and lessons is about $200,000 to $210,000 a year. It's important to note that our expenses are also about the same, so it's pretty much a break even at the end of the day.
Further on the question?
Great. Thank you, Madam Moderator. Bill McPed, Precinct 7. Question for Capital Committee, actually. You know, we're talking about the tennis courts, but I'm hearing retaining wall, and I believe that holds up a roadway and a couple of other things. So is this about the tennis courts, or is this about trying to hold up a piece of land so it won't collapse.
To the Capital Planning Committee, can you please provide the scope of the engineering and if it includes the courts and the retaining wall? One, both?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Yes, it includes both. The first thing that we looked at when we went down there was the retaining wall. And you're correct, that's supporting the roadway and that. So it's an integral part of the complex. We're looking at the entire complex that includes the courts, includes the retaining wall, includes the drainage that's allowing water to flood onto the courts at various times. So it's the complex that we're looking at.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other town meeting rise, I believe you're ready for the question. We're going to use V-Voter at this time. So get your clickers out. A vote in the affirmative will be to appropriate $75,000 towards the Parker Ellis Tennis Courts engineering. A vote in the negative means you would not like to appropriate that money towards that. You have 20 seconds. It requires a 2/3 vote. A 147 members having voted, with 136 in the affirmative, 11 in the negative, 98 required for adoption. The affirmative has it and the motion is adopted. At this time, we will adjourn for the evening to return next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. This Thursday p.m., we will start with motion 8 and run through all of capital. Do we have a motion to adjourn till next Thursday? Thank you. Have a great night. We'll see you on Thursday.
Are we up? Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Alan Iden, and you've just been watching the first session of Winchester's Fall Town Meeting here on WinCam at the Winchester High School. So let's recap what we have seen in this first session here. We had 10 articles on the consent agenda, and those are basically articles that there is no debate anticipated on. and can be voted on all at once. Those consent agenda items were unanimously passed. We did hear in the introduction that there were numerous new town employee hires, and we paid some tribute to some of the notables who had passed, including Whip Saltmarsh. As is traditional, the first article is reports from the different town committees. We heard from Chair of the Select Board, Richard Mucci, saying that it's been a very busy construction season here in town and appreciates the town's patience with that, the residents' patience with that. He said the Cross Street project will end this fall, and in next July, the south side of the train station should open, and followed by the north side in the fall. The Lake Street Bridge project should be done by the end of November. The Select Board's been working on affordable housing projects, and the financial plans have been focusing on the town's capital needs. He did comment that delays in capital projects only increase with increasing construction costs. Town Manager Beth Rudolph again commented on a lot of new staff in town. She said that several line items in the budget came in under budget, that free cash is at $20 million and has been trending upwards. And the town manager's office is working on long-term capital plans. The chair of the Finance Committee commented about the turnover in the committee, but did praise the expertise and skills of the members. He said it's the duty of the Finance Committee to advise the town meeting. And the goals of the Finance Committee are a balanced budget, maintaining the town's AAA bond rating, improving the financial forecasts, and increasing the investments in capital projects. We keep hearing capital, capital, capital. School Committee report says the school committee their aim is to nurture a love of learning and the emotional support of the Winchester students. Currently, there are 3,409 students enrolled in the Winchester kindergarten through 12th grade, and that is trending upwards. The committee is wondering how many will come from the River Street and Cambridge Street apartments once they begin to be occupied. They said the new Lynch School will be a net zero energy building, and praised the successful move of the Lynch students to the temporary swing space in the Parkhurst School. From Chris Nixon from the Educational Facilities Building and Planning Committee, it commented on the Parkhurst swing space and said that the ADA work on that building was completed, so it's completely handicapped accessible. There were 14 modular classrooms installed there, and the total cost to prepare it for the Lynch students was about $6 million. He showed the Lynch School layout on the sites and some shots of the projected interiors. He said the project to replace the Lynch School is out to bid, and they hope to award the contract on December 4th, with the contractor taking possession of the site in December. He said there are also some issues here at the high school with some areas that were built in 1970. He commented the great news, and his term was that the school funding from the state for Lynch was increased by $2.6 million, again to reflect the increasing construction costs. And the school committee intends to go for a replacement of the Morocco School in 2028. The report of the planning board said there's a new town planner on board, that their goal is a 2030 master plan for North Main Street, implemented for North Main Street. And their main focus right now is the requirement by the state that communities served by the MBTA, as Winchester is, come up with zoning plans to allow multi-unit housing within a certain radius of these train stations. That plan will be presented by the planning board next spring. But he said there is a November 21st meeting at the Jenks Center the planning board is soliciting public input at that meeting. And again, the planning board is looking to increase affordable housing. After the recess, we heard an introduction from Jim Johnson, the chairman of the Capital Planning Committee. He said the committee took input from many parties, but the needs far exceed the available funds. There are vehicle replacements, playground improvements, and building repairs. The report was passed, accepted by the town meeting. Article 6 was the next one up, and that was $930,000 for improvements to the Leonard and McDonald Fields, feeling that these were underserved areas of the town. The Select Board presented pictures of the needs at these two fields, and a fourth grader spoke on the conditions at the Leonard Field and voiced support for the article, and evidently it was effective because it was unanimously passed. That was Article 6. Town meeting went back to Article 5, which was 20 capital planning requests for the town, and the town meeting passed the first 7 of them. That was library and town hall roof repairs for $865,000, Ambrose roof engineering for $80,000, McCall roof repairs for $240,000, repairs to the DPW storage garage for $100,000, the town hall and library window replacements for $150,000, the Lincoln School chiller for $150,000, and a $50,000 evaluation of the bell tower at Town Hall. At that point, it was decided, because there were people waiting to speak, to move to motion number 16, which was $75,000 for an engineering study of the Packer Ellis tennis courts on Palmer Street. And we heard from several residents about how important those historic courts are, including the Historical Commission. And in the end, town meeting voted $75,000 to do an engineering study of those courts. The rest of the capital planning motions will be taken up this Thursday night when the town meeting resumes. And we will be back here with our coverage of Winchester's fall town meeting this Thursday night at 6:30. We invite you to join us then. And for all of us here at WinCam, I'm Alan Iden. Have a great night.